Well, should we kick this thing off or what?
We ready?
All right,
We
buddy.
ready?
Whenever you're ready, man. Yeah.
I'm giving you a lot of dead air to edit. So if you need. No, I was giving myself a count of 10, and I'm like, Matt's not gonna know what the heck I'm doing, and he's just gonna think that I froze.
I'm just sitting here smiling, like, what's going on?
So I started laughing because it's like, oh man, he thinks this is gonna confuse everybody, and it was a mess. All right, let's try this for real.
Okay, sounds
It's not
good.
like we can't precision edit or anything like that, right?
I'll probably keep it in, to be honest. I think that was fun.
It's all for the laughs, man. It's all for the comedy.
All for the laughs.
All right, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to A Feast of Films. I am Ethan R. Hill, and with me is...
Matt Black. What's going on, fellow movie fans?
Movie fans? Is that the name of our followers now, is my fellow movie fans?
That's right. The beer is already kicking in.
Oh, no.
It's a beautiful day outside. Got to crack a beer.
It is rainy here,
And
actually.
it seems to be kicking in a little bit early.
Is it actually nice for you?
Oh, man. It is sunny, beautiful, and very hot.
Man, no, this is...
So cold beer is perfect.
It is cloudy and rainy for us, so... I guess that's just... I mean, I don't mind it.
I suggest hot chocolate.
Maybe later, actually. That's not a bad idea. I like that idea.
I love hot chocolate. Rainy days, snowy days, it don't matter. I love them.
I'm definitely more of a tea guy myself. I'll get, like, my granny and stuff like that. She used to get us just regular orange pico tea, some honey and milk in there, and it's just great. And that's my
That's tops.
usual go-to.
Yeah, that's tops.
Although, I can't remember if it was hot chocolate or tea. I learned a valuable lesson with her, because she gave me this cup, and it was filled, like, right to the top. And she's like, okay, take this, be careful, and don't run. And now I'm a child. And what do? I don't listen. And I run.
I'm a child.
So I run with this. I'm like, okay. And I just go and I spill this entire mug all over me and start crying and screaming. And I'm in pain because I'm burning myself. This is fresh off, like, out of the pot and everything like that. And so what is my granny's reaction to do? To laugh at me and lecture me about listening to her as she's, like, wiping me down and, like, trying to be like, she has, like, a cold cloth. She's like, it's okay, but, like, you should have listened. You're being dumb.
You're like, yeah, dummy. And don't run with it. And you're like, but I'm a child, so run.
I know better than
No!
No, that's exactly
She's like,
what happened.
You dumbass.
Look, there was a lot of things.
You are some kind of special, aren't you?
No, there's a lot of things where, like, my family would be like, hey, don't do this. Like, there's another time they're like, don't play by the stairs. And I fell down the stairs. They told me not to take a bike biking because it didn't have back brakes on it. And I broke my arm. Like, there's just been, like, a list of things throughout my life where it's like, hey, Ethan, don't do this thing. And I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. And then I get hurt. I get injured.
Have you ever thought maybe it's not you? Maybe your family just happens to be, like, jinxing you? Because it's that old saying where it's like everyone's having fun till somebody gets an eye poked out, or somebody gets hurt.
Somebody loses
it's all
an eye.
Fun and gun. It's all fun and games till somebody gets hurt, right? Like,
We
they
are in
always said
Canada.
that, and we'd be like, it is fun. And then 10 seconds after they say it, someone gets hurt, and you're like, you guys jinxed it, man. That wasn't even us. We would have been fine, but you just had to say something.
You had to say something.
So maybe
You had to
that's
bring
the
it
issue.
up. That's my excuse
that's
from now
the
on.
issue.
From now on, I'm going to tell my parents, it's like, it wouldn't have happened if you guys wouldn't have said anything. That's going to go over
Exactly.
great. I bet you that's going to just, that'll work. They'll say, you know what? You're right.
I can see your parents being very acceptable of that theory.
Yeah, we
Acceptable.
never disagree about anything at all. What are you talking about? It's perfect family life.
Never.
That's what families are, right?
That's right. Well, yeah, fellow movie fans, we got some good stuff for you other than this, though, I think.
Hey, look.
This is good, too, though, I think, eh?
Maybe it all influenced me on becoming a movie maker. Maybe that's all the head trauma I've received over the years convinced me that I could be an artist, and that's why. Getting hit in the head one too many times.
It's probably the burns.
Exactly.
It's probably the burns. Like, you saw Freddy Krueger and you're like, I relate to this character.
That's what I look like, right?
I guess this is my new normal. Hunting down children in their sleep. Oh, well.
Would child Freddy Krueger hunt down other children if he was a child? Like, that's a whole...
Yes, he probably would.
There's a lot of layers.
He's a sick puppy, man. He's a sick puppy.
There's a lot of layers to that conversation.
That's for another video.
We'll do horror around Halloween.
Welcome to a feast of films. That's for another video.
That's our tagline. That's we gotta really.
That is our tagline. Yeah. That's for another episode.
We're gonna set up a bunch of episodes and then like never pay them off. We're just gonna make people wait and go like, but I want to hear about this thing they set up in episode 4.
Oh well.
We don't remember. Do you guys think we listen to our own show? We're smart enough not to.
I listen, but only for critical purposes. I'm like, God, I suck.
I let other people listen to it and then tell me what they think, and then I just sit there and either listen to them or not, depending on what they tell me.
That's very wise.
Yes, exactly. Because if they tell me they hate it, why would I listen to them? But if they tell me they love it, I'm gonna exclusively listen to them.
I do not doubt that theory. That seems solid. That seems solid as hell, man.
Hey, it helps with my self-esteem, I think. I hope.
Oh, boy. Anyway,
so I
think we've both been drinking a little too much
show.
this
Actually,
morning.
let's actually get to the show. Maybe.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Matt, you have the surprise question of the day.
That's right. Surprise question of the day. This one's a doozy, man. I messaged you last night, and I said this one's gonna be a banger because it just like I was like kind of trying to decide like 2 other questions. I'm like, oh, which one should I use? And then this one popped up, and I was like, oh hell yeah, no, this is it. This is it. So let me just set up the question here real quick. One of the best parts about movies that I think we can both agree with is very often we find ourselves relating to the characters. That's what really draws us in, right? Whether they're over a TV series or in an actual movie, 2-hour film itself, we find ourselves relating somewhat to a character. We see a little bit of ourselves in certain characters, and those are probably the ones we like the most because we're like, hey, I see a little bit of myself in that character. And that's always a really fun and exciting experience to be able to have that. So here's my question to you. What character do you most see yourself in? And this is a 2-parter. So what character do you most see yourself in? Number 1, when you were a child. So when you rewind yourself back to little tea spilling Ethan, okay? What character did you most see yourself in? And then the second part is now. So which character is a child? Which character is now? And it can be TV or film.
Do you want my answer right away? Because here's the funny thing about this question, Matt. Here's the funny thing about it. This question was actually asked as part of my entrance into college. Like my college.
Oh, really? So you already have an answer?
Yeah, no, I've had an answer for years. And
well, damn it. Well, maybe I should be a college interviewer then. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, yeah,
I feel like
if
that's
you
what you're
want
saying.
to. I mean, it's. I don't know how much money there is, but.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind then.
So I'm prepared for your surprise question, and this doesn't really happen that often.
Oh well, you know what? It's a banger. I like it. Kid and adult. So don't forget that one.
No, I love the
go
question.
Ahead.
I think it's.
And then why?
I think this is a great question, and I love answering this question. And there's also a chance that like in our conversation it might change a bit too, because like again, I can give you the answers from the interview for sure. Because the first one, and it's gonna sound like a bummer. It's gonna sound like such a massive bummer and just like such a low opinion, I guess. But as a child, the one I always related to the most was actually Charlie Brown.
Oh,
like always, like it was just like there was even like a time in
interesting.
You know, like how a good example is like the Valentine's Day special or something like that. He didn't get any Valentines, and that actually would happen to me in elementary school.
Oh,
it's like everyone else would get one.
Sad reason.
Oh yeah, like there was actually one time in grade 8 where they switched up Valentine's Day for candygrams, and everybody in the class got a candygram from a different person. And then there's me that I got one with a little smiley face, and that was from the teachers because they saw that I didn't get one. So that's a thing that happened to me.
Oh.
And like,
I knew this was getting introspective. I didn't realize we're digging so deep into like
it's not
your,
that. It's pretty
childhood
surface level.
psyche.
But
Okay.
like a lot of things that happened, it would feel like the football was getting pulled out from under me and stuff like that. And there were just a lot of like parallels with just the way that he would feel, or like there'd be, any time that something happened, it was always his fault. And there was even times, I think even in high school, there's a few times where like something would happen that I had nothing to do with, and everyone's like, "Ethan, why would you do this?" And it's like, "What do you mean? I didn't do anything."
I wasn't even there.
That I am 100% sure that's happened at least probably 10 different times where they're like, "Nope, it's Ethan's fault," and it's like, "What? I wasn't." Okay, fine. So for
And then you're like, okay, I get it.
I guess so. So for a very long time, like Charlie Brown was the one I identified with for negative reasons. But then as I've gotten older, and I can still sit there and say, you know what? Yeah, I can identify with Charlie Brown because, you know what? There's all that negative stuff there, but he always pushed through and was always still attempted to be a decent person and a good person throughout, and he still tried his best. He never gave up, and he never blamed anybody else, and he never really let anybody keep him down, even though, like, he struggled with that kite, could never kick that football, that kind of stuff. Like, he still tried. Every single time he tried, just in case something would change, and, like, there's a positive message to take from that, and a positive mentality to take from that, rather than just focusing on the, no one likes me, and sit on that, right? So it's kind of, it sounds a lot sadder to identify with him than it actually is, I think. I think there's a lot more positivity to identify with him.
You identify with the strength of him, right?
Well, exactly.
The strength of his character and how he endures through these things. Instead of getting mad or angry at others, he just, he accepts it and then he just moves on to the next thing.
Well, especially as a
just
child.
keeps trying his best. Yeah.
Like, he's a child and he does this, and that's kind of like, I know he's a fictional character, but again, like, he's always on to the next adventure, and he's always on to the next thing, and he's always there for his friends. He's always trying to make things right with them. And he does his best, and sometimes you can do your best and still fail. There's actually a quote from Star Trek where I can never get it right, but essentially it's along the lines of, Captain Picard said it, where you can still do everything right and lose. That's, it's not about what life's fair or anything like that. That's just how life is sometimes. That's very much paraphrased. I'm not quoting it one for one because I'll never claim to quote one from one for that, but 100% you can do everything right and still lose. That's just part of it, and it's how you deal.
That's life, man.
It's how you deal with those losses, and it's how you handle them, right? And it's Charlie Brown, I think, is a good example of that. And that's where, as much as like I used to laugh and be like, haha, it's kind of sad that I identify with this character, now it's more like, you know what, yeah, like I do, but like for very positive reasons.
That is very introspective.
It's
that was deep, man. That was a deep cut.
It's I don't know what the power of peanuts are. There's a reason that they've stood the test of time. Now for my adult one, I'm gonna say Batman because he's handsome, strong, basically invincible, and can do anything. And that's pretty much me, I think, in a nutshell. Arguably I'm handsomer than Batman, and stronger, and more invincible.
And I'm not laughing out of sarcasm. I'm laughing because I 100% believe that's true.
Yeah, it's 100% true. See, Batman.
Yeah.
Batman's been shot.
The truth of it is staggering, actually.
Batman's been shot. I've never been shot. I must be stronger, more invincible, right? Like, it's sound logic, right?
That's a good theory.
My real answer is a superhero, and it's Spider-Man. Like, I relate to Peter Parker a lot, but I feel like that's almost a cop-out answer because he's meant, like, Spider-Man, it's as a character, or Peter Parker as a separate character, were always written to be the most relatable characters to people in general. They have struggles that are real-world struggles. They, struggle getting the girl. They struggle with holding down a job, family problems, all that kind of stuff. He's a very relatable character. And that's probably why I love him so much, is just, like, you can see yourself as that character. So, like, for me, even at a young age to now, like, there's always been some kind of relatability to Spider-Man. And that's why I love Spider-Verse so much, is because it had such a strong message of anybody can be Spider-Man. And that's true. That's always been the case since I was a kid. Like, if any of my friends came up and said, I'm Spider-Man, I'd never be like, no, you can't be because you don't look like Peter Parker. I'd be like, no, yeah, Spider-Man,
Right.
yeah, like it's at the core, at the heart of what Spider-Man and Peter Parker is. And it's also that idea of, again, always doing what's right and kind of trying to help out as many people as you can for non-selfish reasons. And the one thing Spider-Man does that I try to live by too is, like, he doesn't expect anything for what he does. It's even goes back to the lyrics of the 60s theme, where it basically says action is his reward. And it's the idea of, like, you know what, yeah, he doesn't do it for monetary gain, he doesn't do it for himself, he does it because it's the right thing to do. It's what, with great power comes great responsibility. And even then, it kind of bugs me with the new Spider-Man movies that's not a topic that they're tackling, because, like, I get it's been done to death in other movies, but it's such a core part of his character that, to me, to ignore that, it's kind of a shame. Mm-hmm. But there's so much I could pull from Spider-Man for different reasons, and that's why those are my two answers. And that's, I told you, I've been prepped for this without knowing what the question was. I've just been sitting on these.
Clearly, man, like, clearly those are much deeper and more introspective than I definitely thought they were going to be. I honestly feel like really, like, not bad, but I'm like, man, my answers are nowhere near as good as those, and I knew this question was coming.
Is it Leonidas? Do you feel like Leonidas because you have rippling abs and you're kick people off of cliffs and stuff?
It's the rippling abs, it's the beard.
Yep.
That really does it, yeah.
I mean, I could also say I feel like
not.
I could also say I feel like Mickey Mouse because he's so happy-go-lucky and always tries his best. I could say that I feel like Quasimodo because, well, look at my face and my back. I mean...
I like how you went from Batman to Quasimodo. Look, like polar opposite.
How I feel about how I look is on a spectrum. There's a wide array of how I feel, and it depends on the day.
And it changes from second to second.
It depends on the angle too. Like there are certain angles. Like we'll be editing our films and stuff like that, and I'll see a profile. I'm like, where's my chin? Where's my neck? What don't I have a jawline? What's going on? But then I see myself from like a 3/4 angle. I'm like, yeah, that guy, he's good looking. I'd make out with him.
That's money right there.
I'd make out with me.
That's money right
And then
there.
it's like, yeah. But then I see myself from a different angle, and it's like, no, go away. Get out of here. Where's my beating stick?
Especially like when you wake up in the morning and you turn the light on for the first time in front of a mirror. It's like, Jesus.
No,
that's always
the
scary
mirror,
for me. My hair is ridiculous.
If you had to choose between people seeing you how you see yourself in a mirror or how you see yourself in pictures, what would you pick?
Definitely the mirror.
Right? Same here. I hope I'm like,
that the mirror definitely looks better, man. Pictures add like 30 pounds. Easy.
A lot of that's based on lenses. Depends on what lens they use because they can actually change your face shape. There's like some really cool videos. You can just Google that and it'll actually show like the transition of like what your face will look like with different lenses. And it's bonkers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's really bonkers. And then, but again, it's also depends on what angle you're shooting at, how you're sitting or standing too. Because if I'm slouched over, sitting in a huddled mass, I'm gonna look not quite as good as if I'm standing up straight and like holding in my gut and everything like that, right? Like it's perspective is a painful tool, but it's great.
Powerful. Too. It's powerful.
I mean, that's for sure. I think pain is power, isn't it?
Something along those lines, yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. I just work here.
Something like that.
So enough about me, Matt. How about you? What do you relate to?
Oh, man.
Come on.
So, okay.
I'm excited
I'll
to
give
hear.
my answers. So for both my kid and adult ones, like I thought hard about it, and I'm like, I got 2 characters for each, so I'm just going to roll with that. Because that'll fill in the space of my least introspective, lesser than your answer. But this will fill in a little bit of space. So when I was a kid, one of the characters, one of them out of the 2 that I relate to probably the most, and for like a long time, even up till like I had my own kids, was like Simba. I always loved like Simba from The Lion King. And like I was like, I relate to a lion. Hell yeah.
And that's why the
but just like his character, right? Well, okay, I'll talk about that next character here. Actually, it's kind of funny. It's funny that you brought that up. But no, and I don't really exactly know what it was about Simba that made me relate to him. Maybe it was just like how when he was younger, he was so carefree. Like he loved to take risks. Like he was so excited of what the future held in front of him, right? Like that opportunity to be king, and he didn't really see the responsibilities of it, but he just was loving life. Like he lived life to the fullest. Like when he was little Simba. Little Simba, I'm talking about.
Honestly, knowing you as like I didn't know you when you were little. I knew you 16 or 17 is when we met. And honestly, I just hearing you say that though, I have a vivid audio memory of you singing Can't Wait to Be King. Like, and it's your voice. Like I have this auditory cue in the back of my brain, and that just makes sense. That 100% makes sense for you to identify.
Did I sing that around you at some point?
I don't know if you did, but I can hear you. I can hear you singing it. So maybe you did, but
and you're like, that makes sense. So
it does, man. Like it's because that's. But even now, that's how you are. You're still like you like.
Well, I try to be. Now I'm more like old man. Maybe Scar. No, I'm not as bad as Scar. I killed the king.
You say that you are. You say that you're like that.
In
but
my
in all
soul,
honesty,
in your deep down, you know you're the same people, right? You just kind of got to dig and reconnect with that.
Here's the thing: if you weren't, we wouldn't be doing this. If you weren't still like, hey, what else can I do? What's my future hold? We wouldn't have started a podcast. We wouldn't be talking to each other like this. We probably both of us would be sitting in our chairs, sad and being like, man, I should be doing something. But you're actively doing things. So like now you're currently where you're at in your life. You're still Simba, but you're not kid Simba. You're at adult Simba running back to Pride Rock to deal with what you need to deal with.
As a kid, when I was like, fairly young, like you kind of related a bit more to the smaller one, but I always knew one day that I have to be older Simba as well, right? Also, there's like the really weird part where it's like Simba didn't have a dad because he died. Like my dad didn't die, but I didn't have a dad, so I was like, cool, we're like the same. I also wasn't raised by a meerkat and a warthog, so that's different. Like that's not a thing that happened to me, so I don't relate on exactly on that level.
You met the meerkat and warthog when you met me and Ben. That's when you met Timon and Pumbaa.
There we go.
I'm not gonna
say it.
I'm not gonna say who's who because that's just mean. Look, we all know I'm Pumbaa. We all know I'm Pumbaa.
But yeah, and then Simba ran away, right? But then even as he grew up, he lived Hakuna Matata, right? Like carefree, just living life, enjoying it.
Well, and that's...
But I always knew, like, as a kid, like one day I'd have to grow up and be like Simba who came back to Pride Rock, who, it's like you can still have that fun energy about you, but you gotta look after your shit. You know what I mean? Like you gotta come and be the king.
Even knowing you
that character
knowing you in high school, you were very much, you seemed to me at least, I didn't know what was going on in your personal lives or anything like that, but you seemed carefree. You seemed to have no worries. So maybe I'm pretty good at
I'm pretty good at projecting that. Like I don't know.
But I mean,
I don't really dig into like a lot of my other stuff like a lot too, but I try to live that way as much as I can, right? Because I don't know, thinking about living like the other way, just being bogged down by everything, like, yeah, it just makes you bogged down, depressed. And we all have those days. We honestly do, right? Like, we all have those days where it's hard to get out of bed, where it's hard to face the next day, and it's hard to look forward and hope there's hope for the future kind of thing. But, like, you try to work past that as quickly as possible and kind of get back to the finding joy and finding fun in life. That's kind of my goal right now, honestly, like in my life. I know we're talking about podcasts, and this is getting very introspective for a question. I didn't think this was going to get this deep on this kind of level.
But this is the beauty of
but this is the magic of
fiction,
film, man.
Just a fiction in general, too, because like even the question in college was like expanding past to even like book characters, anything like that. Just fictional characters in general. And the fact that you can relate to, like I guarantee you, if we actually looked at it, we could probably relate to several different characters. Like, I could go on about how I relate to the Wolfman or Frankenstein. I could go on how I relate to, I don't know, Scott Pilgrim. How I relate to, I don't know, just name a character, and you could probably find a way to relate. Like, do you relate to Optimus Prime at all?
There's always, like, a piece of us that relates to a certain character, especially the ones we're drawn to, right? There's always something there that we respect or we feel connected to that character.
Well, and that's the sign of a good, realistic, strong character. Because if you can't relate to a character, then what's the point, right? Like, what's the point of, like, I don't want to watch a movie about characters that I can't... Well, I guess, no, there's that's a double-edged sword, though, because, like, there are totally tons of characters who I don't relate to, but they're entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things like, well, I mean, like The Godfather, I don't relate to any of the characters in The Godfather, but they're interesting to watch. Same thing, I hope no one identifies with Scarface. Because,
Yeah.
like I feel like if you do,
You got problems.
yeah, yeah.
I relate to the part where he's sniffing all the cocaine.
I just get like a bunch of flour and I just put my face right into it because I'm basically Scarface. The Scarface of baking, that's what you are.
Oh man. But
So-
yeah, no, that's the best part about like you said, film and fictional characters is that relationship to them. And that's why I wanted to touch on these characters. Which one do we relate to as kids and then adults? Because that kind of just tells us even of our own. It shows us a little bit of our own transformation of like how we picture ourselves and what things we found admirable as kids, right? And you even mentioned Charlie Brown, and you're like, oh, it's kind of sad, but then you're like, no, it's about the strength of the character.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not like a loud, proud strength. It's not an Optimus Prime or a King Leonidas or a Winston Churchill that we talked about last week, right? But it's a subtle strength that is only recognized when you have to walk through it yourself.
With Charlie Brown, he is still a lead character. He's still a main character. But as you said, it's a subtle strength. It's not like he's a leader in the traditional sense of, guys, don't worry, I'm going to solve all our problems and everything will be fine. He's not Superman, right? He's very
not
much
like Peanuts, roll out.
But he's like, guys, don't worry, I'll take care of this. I'll go find a tree for you guys for your Christmas performance thing. Yeah. And then he messes it up. But then, he still tried his best. And his friends rallied around him at the end. Like, it's one of those things of, like, he still tries. And it's still, there is that leadership quality to him where he tries to be a leader. He just, unfortunately, fails a bunch. But that's part of the learning experience. That's part of the human experience. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing with these characters, too, is, like, even with Simba, like, that struggle, that idea of having those goals, being carefree, and then being like, okay, I finally need to actually do what these goals I had to set out to. That was a weird way to say that, but y'all know what I mean.
No, I get what you're saying, yeah.
The fact of the matter is that's a very human trait to have. And that's 100%. Again, going back to Spider-Man, I think that's why a lot of people identify with him, too, because his traits are 100% relatable human conditions. So that being said, let's segue to, what was your adult pick? Unless you said it and I completely missed it.
I had two picks for like the kids. And,
okay.
What's
your
or whatever?
All right. Then
I didn't think we were going to talk
pick?
that much about Simba. Honestly, I felt it was more surface. But then again, when you talk about it and we start digging into it, like, oh, okay, maybe there's always something deeper. Second one, I won't spend too much time on because literally we have talked about Star Wars so much in this podcast, and we get it. We're fans. We love it, but we're trying to not talk about it as much. Ethan's like, I just thought of like, what are you talking about?
No, I just thought about like 60 different joke answers that I could throw your way for like which character it's gonna be, and I'm like, no.
You relate to Darth Vader, don't you?
I mean, no, I was gonna be meaner than Darth Vader.
Oh, were you gonna say Jar Jar?
Nah, just the worst characters.
The one character I connected with for sure as a kid was like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, I just love that character so much. There's something like he's just. Like, he carries himself with, like, a lot of honor and a lot of, like, he carries the burden of responsibility. Like, he looks after Anakin, trains him after, he made the promise to Qui-Gon, and he's wise, he's efficient at what he does. Like, sarcasm to him, but he's also, like, he can be strict as hell, you know what I mean? Like, he can lay down the line. I don't know, there was just something about him, and honestly, it was episode 2 Obi-Wan where I'm like, damn, I need to grow a beard. And this was like, I was still a kid at this
same
time.
Way.
Right?
That's
honestly
what,
like, I wasn't kidding about the beard thing. I was like, as a kid, I would walk around like school and I'd like rub my chin like I'm like rubbing a beard, like thinking and pondering. But of course, I had no facial hair, right?
Yeah.
Like back then. But that's honestly why I've always wanted a beard. I was like, I want a beard like
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, yeah, like that's 100%.
Yeah.
Dude, like same here. 100%, same page.
Super nerdy, like Simba, real depth and introspection. Obi-Wan, beard.
So then on a side tangent that has nothing to do with like maybe nothing to do with this. Then so when it came to the Star Wars thing that we did, why did you opt to play for The Apprentice then, or did you opt for it? Like, I can't remember how we decided on what roles.
I thought you were The Apprentice.
No, you were The Apprentice.
Remember. Was I?
Yeah,
I
you
don't
were
know.
you were the apprentice that turned to the dark side and fought with Nicole, who's the evil lady.
Oh, okay. Maybe I was. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I couldn't tell you. Like Obi-Wan for me, like he's not just the Jedi. Like it's not just like the Jedi Master part that I relate with, but it was like the apprentice, like in Episode 1 as well. Like
Well,
that's
and you
when I
see that
first like really loved the character, right?
the
Because
thing I love
like he was still learning, he was headstrong, and was he right about the whole thing? Yeah, he was right. Like but I don't know. Like I just loved the character, and I just felt connected with him. Like there was just something about it. And I can't really explain exactly or pinpoint what it is. But sometimes even too, we talk about fictional characters, like you feel drawn to them, and it's not always something you can place. It's just something that like a part of your soul connects with their like the character fictional soul, I guess, right? But like there's a connection there that
well
sometimes
at the
there's not really words for.
at the risk of being more introspective with it specifically. If you look at his journey, it's a lot of, you know what, yeah, maybe he was right, but he still believed in what his master believed. He still,
Yeah.
his mentor said, hey, no, this guy, and Qui-Gon at the end of the day was technically right as well.
Yeah.
Like he was right, and if the other Jedi got on board and actually like backed up Anakin, there's a good chance he wouldn't have turned to the dark side, right?
Well,
So
or resented them, right? Yeah.
100%. So like, so Obi-Wan took that to task, and he did his best. He took a near impossible task of training a kid who he shouldn't have been training by all Jedi rules and accounts and purposes, and he still took.
Well,
that.
he's the least experienced anyway. Like
He literally
like
became
at the end of the episode, they made him a Jedi Knight, and they're like, "Hey, you can train this kid now." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like
And
least
that's- and
experience
that's-
around.
And that's the thing, is like he's given an impossible task, but he still saw it through the best that he could. And at the end of the day, Obi-Wan isn't the one who failed Anakin, because he was honest with him the entire time. Even when it comes to in Episode 3, he's very upfront with Anakin, where it's like, hey, the Council wants you to do this. I'm not on board with keeping you in the shadow or anything like that, but like I need to talk to you about this thing. Like he's never was really manipulative. He was very just nurturing and caring. He was a little mean at some points, but at the same time, like he was never mean at the same way Mace Windu was. He was very like playfully mean. I always found, even in episode 2 and 3.
He was very much like the older brother, right? Like when it came to Anakin. Like I wouldn't necessarily say a father figure, but he was the older brother who, in spite of their father dying, aka Qui-Gon Jinn, more or less, right? If you want to put in those kind of perspectives.
Yep.
He had to stand up to the task and look after and raise his younger brother, which he
100%.
did to the best of his ability, right? And that's kind of what you see in episode 2. Like Obi-Wan is way more of a grump in episode 2. Like, and then you go to episode 3 and you can see there's more of that brotherly relationship. There's a bit more joking. But episode 2, he's like, "You will follow my lead," and like he yells like a lot at Anakin.
At the risk of possibly hitting too close to home or anything like that, would you say that possibly that relationship also reflects in your relationship with your own brother?
Well, it could be that too, right?
Like
that's definitely a possibility. But I think even just like it's just Obi-Wan's attributes, like his character, like his willingness to take on again that impossible challenge, his willingness to not give up, but to continue to fighting on. Like there is a incredible strength and endurance to Obi-Wan, and ultimately at the end of the day, especially once you get to episode 3, like he does what he has to do. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't
will do what
want
he
to
must.
fight Anakin, but exactly, like that's literally the line. Like he will do what he has.
That's why I said it, Matt. That's why I said it, because it was literally
Yeah.
the line. So yesterday
It's literally the line, yeah.
when you messaged me of like, this is where the fun begins.
This is where the fun begins.
I'm like,
yeah.
do I want to address that? And who do I want to address? Is that Han Solo or Anakin? Who am I talking? So enough.
I was using an Anakin one.
So unless you're still wanting
I'm
to
glad
talk,
you picked that up.
Oh, 100%. It's because I'm a nerd and sad. But anyway, so do you have more to say on Obi-Wan, or do we want to move to your adult choices now?
No, I think we can move past like the introspective stuff. I'm like, man, this is getting so deep.
See, you say that, and then we're going to get to the adult ones, and we'll be just as introspective.
Okay, my adult ones are far less introspective because I think they just relate to me more. It's funny to see the shift between like my younger, like who I looked up to when I was younger, like the apprentice or the child, right? Now, like my characters are kind of like older.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say more honorable or better though. And so I have two, and these ones are actually from TV. It's not characters from film, but these are two from TV that I relate to. Number one is Phil Dunphy from Modern Family. It's like,
Okay. I can
have
see
you
that.
seen Modern Family?
I've seen a few episodes. I haven't seen it in depth, but like the few episodes I've seen,
Oh
I
my
can
god,
see
dude!
that.
Please watch that show.
It's on my
so
list.
good.
It's on my list. It's been added.
It's so good. So first one's Phil Dunphy, and I think that those kind of things maybe a bit more obvious. He's a father. He's a dreamer. He's a creator. He's always working on something, and he's always getting himself into like just the most ridiculous situations. And I'm like, God, I feel like that's just me. Like that's the fun side of me, right? The other character who I relate to as an adult is Michael Scott from The Office. Like,
Of course.
that one just cracks me up, right? Because I'm like, look at, man, this guy made a James Bond like type film. Like, we did that too. We made the spoof. He I think on a deeper level though, but like he loves his office family, right? Like he wants nothing more in the world for them all to be happy. He wants to also be loved and cared about as well. Maybe a bit more.
He
to
wants
an
people to be
excessive
afraid
point.
of how much people love him. That's
Yeah, like he makes all sorts of crazy decisions. And then ultimately at the day though, like even like the stuff he says, I'm like, come on, can you not see me in high school? Like all the things that like we talk about and like the most ridiculous things I say, I'm like, God, I'm Michael Scott. I'm not as bad as like his most like egocentric, like zany side, like the farthest stuff.
But a lot
like,
of it,
a nice comfortable middle ground. I'm like, I definitely have
it
the
is-
relation there.
a lot of it though is him also. He tries to make people laugh. He tries to make sure people have a good time, and that's honestly going through high school and just our friendship in general. That's always been something you very much try to do, is make people laugh and make sure people are having a good time. That's, I mean, like we were listening to music at my house yesterday, and Bye 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 by Ink Sync came up, and immediately I flashed back to like those dances that you choreographed for us for the SRC to do.
SRC, yeah.
So it's again
Okay, man.
and that was again,
Okay,
who is
yeah.
that for other than to try and entertain the school? So I mean, like,
Yeah,
even
exactly.
on a personal
and, like,
one-on-one
make ourselves
level,
look like idiots, to be honest. Like,
but we all knew we looked like idiots. Not one of us was like,
yeah,
look at us, we're so
I'm a
cool.
serious dancer.
No, we were all like, we are the least. Well, we went to school with a dance program in it. We were the least qualified people to be doing a dance.
For dancing. Okay, and then like the dance teacher, she came up to me afterwards. I can't remember if it was the second one we did or the third one or the first one. It was like one of them or whatever, and she's like, "You should join like the dance crew." I was like, no thanks. I'm doing this for shits and giggles. Like I'm not a serious dancer here." Like,
No, and
I got moves? Of course I do, man. I got rhythm and the beat. What? But I was like, no, I'm not gonna get into a skin tight outfit and dance around. No thanks. No one wants to see that.
You might have had rhythm and beat, but most of us had nothing. We were just there flailing around doing our best.
Well, that's not true. A lot of you guys were in the music program, so you had the beat and you feel too.
We didn't have the movement,
But it was
though.
fun. It was fun.
And
The Thriller one when we choreographed the whole Thriller dance, and then it went off terribly because I led us astray. I got too distracted by the video, and I was like, "Shit, I forgot to like get us out." On time. And then we started too close to the stage, and then like who was doing backflips? Some Brooke was like doing backflips in front of everyone. And he like flipped into a music stand or something. It was like just a gong show, man.
But that's what I mean, though,
was-
is like
that
you've
was so
always,
funny.
the entire time I've known you, you've always been an entertainer. You've always been someone who wants people to. It's not about being about the center of attention either, and I think that's kind of where the difference between you and Michael Scott is.
Right.
And maybe I'm not going to speak for you because I don't know your brain or anything like that, but for him, it was making people laugh, but also he most of the time needed to be the center of attention. Like a good example
Well, yeah,
of that.
he wanted to be in on like everything, right?
A good example is that it's like when Dwight gives that speech at that Jim gives him like a bunch of fascist quotes or something like that to say at the speech, and like people are like actually getting behind it and like reacting positively to it, whereas like no one reacted to Michael's jokes.
Yeah, like, and he couldn't handle it, right?
He couldn't, and then he spun it in a way that he could, where it's like, you know what? Dwight captivated a room. I captivated the guy who captivated a whole room. Therefore,
Yeah. I am the better captivator. Yeah.
But that's never been an ego thing that I've seen from you, though. That's never been, at least in my experience. You've never done something in the sense of like, no, guys, I need to be the center of attention. It naturally falls upon you. You naturally get that attention, which I think it speaks to your natural ability as a performer and as an entertainer. And like, you've always been very humble about it. I've never seen you throw a tantrum over, no, people are ignoring me, no one's paying attention to me. I've never seen that side of you, and I think that's a good quality to have, though. Like, and I think that's where you differ from Michael Scott.
You are a very gracious person. Those were very nice. Those are really nice things to say. I appreciate that greatly.
No problem. I also haven't seen you in 10 years, so I mean, like, I could miss that whole chapter of your life.
Well, to be fair, I haven't been a performer for 10 years pretty much, so, that kind of part goes away too. But yeah, like, it never really is about, it never really goes away, but I just haven't
I was going to say,
for a long time.
Do you hang out with friends and family? Do you still make them laugh? Are you still putting on a show for them a little bit?
I guess yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there. But yeah, no, like I said, like I don't really connect with like the more egotistical, like extreme points of Michael Scott. But I think just in his like base nature, because ultimately at the end of the day, like when you watch that show, Michael Scott will do terrible things and he will say terrible things. But at the end of the day, he really cares. Like he's the one who showed up for Pam's art gallery, right? Like he's the only one who showed up in that episode. Other than Oscar and his boyfriend who like ripped on her art, right? And he put it up in the office and he was so proud of her and he was so happy. Like he bought it from her.
It was a genuine...
So it's like those kind... Yeah, and genuine. Like he loves these people. And I think that's kind of where I just also connect with Michael Scott just as well. It's just that genuine love he has for people. And he genuinely cares. Does he say really ridiculous, funny shit? Of course he does. He's hilarious. And that's sometimes, maybe I think I'm also hilarious. But I know I'm not as funny as Michael Scott. I won't confirm it or deny it. But
I mean, arguably, you have
but just how much he cares. And, that I think that I just really connect with that. And Phil Dunphy, again, just as a father and how much he cares for his family and tries his best, even though he gets into ridiculous situations. Like, it's just, these are just two TV characters that I think TV gives you the opportunity to, over the course of a longer amount of time to connect with these characters. But, like,
100%.
I love these guys.
We finished Community finally and actually found out of all the characters I connected with the most this time, it was actually Britta. Out of all the characters to relate to, for some reason, Britta connected with me more, and I think it's because I'm closer to her age than I was previous characters, or like when I watched the show first, I was closer to Troy's age or Abed's age and that kind of stuff. Whereas now being closer to Britta's age, I connected with a lot of the stuff she was saying or dealing with or going through, like even her crisis of like, what am I going to do with my life? I get that. I feel that on a regular basis, right? Like there are moments where you feel like you failed and stuff like that, or feel like you Britta'd things, right? Like it's things like that. So like that's as you said, the beauty of TV shows is you actually get to spend the time. Like actually, if you look at all the characters that we've listed off, minus Simba, really, all of them are characters that we've gotten to know for years and spend time with for years, right? Like we didn't name a character who just came out last year or anything like that. Like Spider-Man's been around for how long? Arguably Simba's been around since the 90s, so he's been around for as long as we have.
He has, yeah, and like very early on too, right?
No, and that's exactly
close to our childhood, very close.
And I think that's a big factor in it too. Is like it's either characters, actually, very beginning because it came out in '94.
Yeah,
so we were 3, but it's interesting to see that those are the characters that we draw from, or ones that we've just always grown up with or either grown up with, or they've been around long enough to make that impact with, or we've gone on a journey with. And I think that's a big part of connecting with characters too, is that journey, right?
I 100% agree. And like you said, like that's the best part of characters in fiction. Like, and to people, whoever you guys relate with, I'll just speak, I'll break the fourth wall here and speak to, you who are listening, whoever you relate with too. Like, It doesn't have to be from a movie. Like, it can be a TV show.
It can be a book.
A video game. A video game, a book. There's so many different narrative creations that are out there that really connect us to these characters. And again, sometimes, like when we dig introspectively and we say, and sometimes it helps too when you have someone else, because we don't always judge ourselves the same way as like maybe someone else sees us too.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not sure why we connect to a certain character, but someone will be like, well, it's obvious because of this or that, or the other thing. But whoever you connect to, there's definitely a reason for it. And like, that's the real, shit got real in this question, but that is the realism of the fiction of characters, of the beauty of storytelling, the beauty of film. And it connects us to these characters who aren't real, but yet they're more real than, I don't know, reality. I don't know where I was going. I was kind of like Michael Scott in that point too, where it's like I start a sentence and I'm not sure where I'm going with it, and I just hope it finds its way.
These characters, the characters are more their characters are more real than they should be for fictional characters.
For sure.
At the end of the day, like there are cartoony, over the top fictional characters, but then there are ones that are, you could see meeting them in a real life situation. We all know a Michael Scott. We all know a Phil Dunphy. We all know a Peter Parker. We all know a Charlie Brown. As I said, I know, like, going through your characters, that Simba, I feel, and Obi-Wan. I was like, who was the other one we talked about? But like, those are all, those are people we know. Like those are people we know, because as soon as you said those, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, like that's who you are. That's who I can see those parallels and similarities. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want, I can take away the seriousness and just be like, well, if you relate to Michael, I'm basically Jim, because
yeah. I feel like that's a very good comparison.
And I'll just keep looking at the camera whenever I can.
I also love Jim too. He's great.
That's the thing with Jim though.
That's such a great TV series.
I've only seen it once, and I can't disagree in the slightest. I didn't see it until literally last year. Really? I never watched and I'm glad I didn't though, because for years, so many people like pushing it on me, and eventually me and my roommate were just like, you know what? Let's just finally watch it. Let's just put it on. No one's talked about it for a while. Let's just see what it's like. And no, it held up, but I'm glad I didn't watch it sooner. Otherwise, I think it would have been like, this isn't as funny as everyone's saying it is.
And like, there's just like, there's a charm to it. There's a heart to it. And I think too, like, all the characters are so human, right? Like, they're so relatable. Yeah. Like, it's not these out of world characters. It's like we all know someone who is like these characters to a certain point of view, right?
I think everyone even knows.
Yeah, like, it's so well written and everything.
Even going as like the weirdest characters ever. Like, I think everyone knows a Creed at some point in their life. Like,
oh yeah, like Creed is like probably one of my favorite too. See, like I could say that about almost all of them though. Like honestly, like, oh yeah, that's probably one of my favorite. Like,
but that's
almost all of them.
But again, that's a testament to those characters. It's the same thing with, I don't know if you've watched Parks and Rec, but it's the same thing with them. And like the first season of that show, you can kind of tell it's trying to be an Office clone, but by the second season,
they find their rhythm.
They found their rhythm, and they became such a show separate from The Office that it works. Like, it just, like, I mean, there we go. There's another character I can relate to. Well, anyone played by Chris Pratt, just because, I'm basically Chris Pratt.
It's the six packs, the strikingly handsomeness.
Oh no, I'm talking about
the chiseled jaw.
I'm talking about pre-Chris Pratt being ripped.
Oh,
Fat Pratt,
the other one.
He's lovingly called himself.
Fat Pratt. Yep. I love Chris Pratt, dude. He's such a great dude.
Just super down to earth.
Yeah, at least from what I know. I don't know him personally.
Oh no, we're
at least from what I know.
We're totally Facebook friends. We're totally me and him talk every so often. Definitely,
I see him on Twitter every once.
Definitely not lying about any of that. Definitely not making things up.
Definitely not.
Nope. There's
Oh man, that was a meaty question of the day. Hey, I told you it was gonna be a banger.
I liked it.
I didn't even think it was gonna get that introspective, but shit got real. But I'm glad it did.
I think so. I think it was a good time. I think it was enjoyable. I think I liked that question quite a bit. I also when I thought I had my answers, I'm like, oh, this is gonna make the question short.
Yeah, and then we just dig deeper into it, and I think and it's just nice too to like switch up a little bit of the pace and to dig a little deeper even into, just our own psyches and the characters and how we relate to them. Turned out to be way more interesting than I thought it was honestly going to be.
20 years, 20 movies.
I'm ready. 20 years, 20 movies.
Until we find more movies to watch. 20 years.
Party!
I can't wait for us
Yeah.
needing to change that title at some point. Or we can just keep it the same even though we go past 20 years.
Yeah, I think so. And then I just start a second 20 years.
20 years,
right?
20 movies, 1980s edition.
Part 2. Yeah.
The sequel.
The sequel.
All right. So, Matt, 2016.
2016.
It was a year.
Am I starting? You want me to start this one?
See,
Or do you
okay,
wanna
here's the thing. I'm good to let you start. I'm good for me to start because I took a lesson from you. And I revisited the movies that I liked. And I actually took notes. So I actually have
nice.
points to talk about rather than sitting here smiling like an idiot, being like, yeah, I like this movie. I'm just going to smile and grin about it, and no one can see it because you can't hear a smile. Maybe you can. I think you can. But
I think there's an energy.
I
think there's an
I
energy.
took notes on it, and I have 4 that I can go through as like I have 2 with notes, 4 to mention plus honorable mentions. 4 that we watched.
Yeah, like we can start. I'm good at starting with you, man.
All right.
Whatever you want. You're running the show today.
Sure.
You're
If
running the
you're
show. Whatever you want.
well, let's go back. Do you have multiple, or do you have like for your?
No, I have like 1 in honorable mentions.
Well, this is a conundrum then, because I was gonna say let's go back and forth, but like, sorry, I just got really excited about 2016 movies because there were some, like, honestly, man, there were some good ones. I think you just missed out.
Yeah, like, so here's my opinion on 2016. Meh. Like, there's movies that were like pretty good, movies that were pretty bad, then there's some like really bad ones, but I had such a hard time finding like movies that I really loved out of 2016 that really stood out. Like, and the ones I put down, I'm like, oh yeah, no, these are still really good movies. But I just found most of the year was meh. And I think maybe too, like I told you before, I said maybe I missed the good movies of 2016. But yeah, like, I mean, you're the one pumped for 2016. You can start if you want.
No, I want you to start because maybe I might have to change your mind. So I'm going to let you start.
Oh, you might have to change my mind. Change my mind.
Well,
change my mind.
If it's one of the top
My mind
2,
doesn't change.
if it's one of my top 2, then I have points to try and counteract it. But I'm curious. I want to hear.
Well, these are also my best movies too, so you don't really
let's
need
go.
to count. Do you need to counter my best movies? I don't know.
Well, if they're not
Unless
on the
they're your
list, if
worst
they're not
movies.
on your list, if these ones aren't on
yeah.
there, and then maybe they're on your
Yeah.
bad list, I don't know.
Fair enough.
So yeah, you go
enough.
ahead, take the lead, man.
Okay, so my favorite movie, my best movie of 2016. This one for me was a little different, but I guess looking back at previous episodes, I've kind of had like pretty different genres for my best movies. Like I had that A Quiet Place, like a horror movie. I've had like the superhero Avengers movie.
Dude, Darkest Hour is like
Darkest
the
Hour,
farthest left field
right?
answer I never thought I'd get from you.
Yeah,
I didn't even know you watched that. Like, I was
Yeah,
just like,
who
oh,
knows?
well, I guess.
Okay, don't even get me started on Darkest Hour again, man.
I guess
I'm
Matt
gonna-
likes. My reaction when you said that is like, well, I guess Matt likes higher cinema than I do.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I'm just some
it
dumb
spoke to me
action
because
guy.
I'm a history. I love history. I love speeches. So and Gary Oldman, like I said last.
All right,
week,
let's
so work for me.
let's.
But don't get me started there.
Let's go. Let's
2016.
pull back. If you want to hear Matt's thoughts on Darkest Hour, go back and watch episode 3 if you haven't. There's a little
Yeah, I
plug
talked
for our
about it for
podcast.
way too long. Way too long.
I
But
enjoyed
this
it
week,
though.
Yeah, did you watch Darkest Hour?
No, I haven't watched Darkest
Oh,
Hour.
I thought you said you enjoyed it.
No,
so
I
thought maybe you
enjoyed. I
watched it.
enjoyed
was-
listening to you talk about it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad somebody
Trust me.
did.
Trust me,
Go
I was too
back
busy
and
watching.
Go back and add to our polls too, guys. Come on. I got to put in a poll this week too for something. I don't know what yet. I'm sure it'll come
find
up
out.
naturally.
Exactly.
Okay, so anyway, back to 2016. So the movie I'm doing this year for 2016 is it's like the total opposite of Darkest Hour. Pop star. Never stop, never stopping.
That's on an honorable mention for me, and that is an
Is
amazing
it?
movie.
Because it is
It's
oh
so
my
good.
God, it's so good. It is
Modern
funny.
day,
Like
this is Spinal Tap, man.
Oh my God, it is such a funny movie. Like honestly,
Oh, yeah.
To put it basically simply, without talking about any like my notes and the little points I made down, just simply, this is just a super funny movie. And for me,
Oh, it's
that's all I
hilarious.
needed it to be. That's all it needed to be. I laughed from beginning to end. Andy Samberg and the Lonely Island Boys, they crack me up every time. Every time. I love these guys.
We quote it on a daily basis here. Like, it's especially like nah, man, I didn't do it. Or did I? Nah, I'm just playing with
it. No, I didn't. Well, maybe I did. Chris Red,
maybe I didn't. Like, no. Yeah, man, like, no, it was one that surprised me. I thought I wasn't gonna like it when it first came out. I'm like, this kind of looks dumb. The songs were funny, and then like I actually sat down and watched it finally, and my roommate came home and I sat him down and made him watch it because I'm like, dude, no, you need to see this movie. Like, it's really good.
And it is a surprise movie because I just thought it was going to be one of those like, because sometimes like you get the SNL movies and they're like, meh. But to be fair, Andy Samberg's Hot Rod that came out maybe 2007 or something. It was a little ways
older,
back. Yeah. That was a really funny movie too. I really loved it. So
that's why
I'll give it a shot.
That's one I've watched, but it didn't land for me. But I feel like since I watched it though, I've gained more of an appreciation for Andy Samberg.
Yeah.
So I think there's a chance that going back and watching it, I might actually appreciate it.
I loved Hot Rod too. Honestly, I don't know if it'll be that year's best movie, but it's definitely gonna be an honorable mention.
Man, I haven't even thought that far back. I'm still in the 2010s.
The only reason I thought about Hot Rod is because we're talking about the Andy Samberg movie. Yeah, exactly. But I guess I mentioned the last week or the week before, I can't remember. I was talking about comedies, and I said they have to be funny.
Oh yeah,
right? Like that's the one thing comedies have to be. And if you can be funny, anything else can be forgiven. But the thing that's awesome about this movie is not only is it funny, it's also just a really well written and put together movie. Like that's what makes it like above and beyond any of these other ones, because it's not just that was a funny movie, but the story was terrible and blah 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 blah. It was like, no man, this whole package was well put together. You can see they put so much effort into it, and it was still really funny. So it got all the points.
It's a comedy about a guy who got too big for his britches. It's a story that we've seen happen in the paparazzi and
in the real world.
Yeah,
right?
It's something that happens
again.
All the time. Like it's something that we've seen happen, and it just my favorite part, honestly, is like the actual like celebrities who are playing themselves in it, and they're genuine. Like when they genuinely are talking in excitement about this fictional band. I love that because it's like it's just they're so actually happy about it, and it's
very genuine. Like they do a really good job.
Oh yeah, like never to me did I feel like anyone was really like, this is gonna sound weird, but it didn't feel like anyone was like super acting. Like some of the characters seemed hyper realized, but mostly within like honestly, Connor was the only one who felt like he was like a super exaggerated character, and everyone else was like pretty pulled back.
No, like this is realistic or understandable, right? Like
Hunter was
like,
kind of
no, I can see this being a person.
Hunter was definitely kind of like every mumble rapper ever.
Pretty much, right? yeah, they really nailed that. I guess I'll go into some of my points here.
Yeah, man.
So the 3 points. Always try and keep 3. So 3 points that made it so high up on the list for me was, number 1, the mockumentary style of the film, the writing and performances, and the music. And so talk about like the documentary style. So the whole movie is a documentary, essentially, covering the rise and fall of this pop star singer. I wrote his name down. Connor For Real.
Which is just
such
an amazing...
a funny name too. I love the name too, Connor For Real, and that was played by Andy Samberg. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I thought in this movie they really made the most of this style. They had various characters coming in and out of nowhere. They had hilarious situations, including the one with like the wasp, where they weren't actually like recording anything, but they're like talking. They're like, turn the cameras off, and then like all the bees attacked, and like, there's the queen, get her, take this flamethrower. Do you remember that scene? It was like by the pool.
There's a Blu-ray release of it where they actually released a steelbook of it with the art from that scene. Like they made
really?
They made a painting, and it's like, because it's not actually in the movie, but they made a painting of it of them fighting bees with flamethrowers.
Yeah.
And it's sick. Amazing, and like, oh no, dude, it's awesome. I'll send you a picture of it if I can find that art.
Sweet.
But
I thought that was such a funny part, because they're like, did you guys record that? They're like, no. It's like, shit. It was just like a good reason to like, because no other movie would you have like not record a scene like that, right? But because it was a
100%.
documentary and they had the cameras turned off because it's like fourth wall breaking, they didn't record that. So I thought that was just a great way to use it. And of course, like the talking heads, right? Like you have the interviews with the actual real artist. You have interviews with various different characters. And it was a great way, again, for the characters to talk to the audience, to set up very funny jokes, and to deliver exposition that feels natural, right? Like, it was a very natural way.
They're
That's
giving
what
you
documentaries
information,
are.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. In the movie, I guess it takes place. I can't remember what period of time it takes place, but it takes place over a fair amount of time, going to various different locations. Just wait. Let me get my mouth here. Get your shit together, man. Okay. So the movie takes place over like various locations, and the style adds to it by making it not jarring, right? Like not all of a sudden we're like over here, over there, but because again, documentaries you tend to jump around quite a bit, so it all made sense.
It was a very clear story. Like the story wasn't ever confusing. I never really got lost in it. It was
and you could follow it easily.
Oh, exactly.
And I mean, the movie could have been done not using that style, but I don't think it wouldn't have landed as well, to be honest. It really wouldn't have landed as well. Like, it wasn't there just for the sake of a gimmick. It was really baked into every fiber of this film, and it ultimately enhanced the film in the end. Like, this was from the ground up. This was part of it. This wasn't just added on for fun.
It's a modern day Spinal Tap. It's a modern day Spinal Tap. Like, if you, like, I honestly don't think this movie could have happened without Spinal Tap existing, because like there had to have been some kind of awareness that they're basically essentially remaking or reimagining what Spinal Tap was.
Sure, yeah.
And like honestly, in my opinion, they made it funnier. Like Spinal Tap is funny, it's good, but this is like it's
just another level.
I almost said Streets Ahead, and then I realized that's not actually a thing.
Streets
Ahead. And if you don't think so, you're streets behind.
I thought it was great, and again, like the style just really added to it and made it very easy to digest information and scenes and locations and characters coming in and out very randomly. It worked so well. It worked so well.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it's great in theory, but again, execution is where they just really made it shine. They really pulled it off.
Well,
super well.
Those guys have an eye for that kind of stuff, right? There's a sincerity. Even if you look at the stuff that Lonely Island did for SNL or on their own, even in their songs, there's a genuine sincerity as much as they're making jokes or like poking fun at things. Mm-hmm. There's a sincerity to what they're doing, and I think that that's where their strength really comes from, is that they're real about it, right? You know, they're for real about it. They're Connor for real about it.
Connor for oh,
that joke
bad.
Went way too long.
Ooh, that was bad.
Please cut that. You're not going to, but please.
I'm not going to. I'm totally gonna leave it in there. But like the thing too about Lonely Island, like real life, like these guys are like childhood friends, right? Like they just grew up. Like it's not just in the movie, but real life. These guys grew up making this kind of stuff, and I don't know how it worked or what exactly happened or how they got big. I don't know their origin story as far as that goes. But, like, it's just these group of guys making fun shit, but now they're making it on a different level, right? And we can relate to that. Like, we made all sorts of fun shit. We just never made it Hollywood style. But these guys, they took that feeling of just some friends making some funny-ass stuff and then added, like, the budget and the whole Hollywood, feel to it. But they never lost the charm of it. Like, that's the thing. It never became packaged, branded. Like, it did, but Lonely Island still has the charm of, like, just a group of friends making funny songs. Like, and ultimately probably for their own entertainment, right?
It's the same as Monty Python, right? Like, I'm not saying that they are Monty Python, but it's similar to that, where it's a group of friends got together and they made things together, and they kind of built a career around that, right? That's why a lot of people keep asking. They're not really looking for the next Andy Samberg project necessarily, as much as like, well, when's Lonely Island doing something next? Like, there are fans of Andy Samberg, but then there are also fans where it's like, hey, but like, when's the group doing things? Yeah, like, to me, I think I love it because the story is essentially like a weird mix of like, if Lonely Island broke up and if the Beastie Boys broke up, like there's two distinct kind of bands that they really base it around themselves, and then also there's a lot of Beastie Boys imagery, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Well, they're called the Style Boys, right? Like even just right there.
just dude, like I said, the movie just made me happy. See, I don't have points for yours, so I can just sit here and smile like an idiot while you talk about it. So.
You're like, continue on. I will just smile. Okay, well, I'll continue on to my next point then. So comedies really start, of course, with the writing, right? Like a lot of them get ad-libbed on set. Like we've seen many different times, different variations, but writing is still key to setting up a strong joke, like setting up the scene, setting up the situation. The joke's just really a part of that, right? And the writing and the jokes in this movie, off the hook, super, super funny. The story, the character arcs, the characters themselves, great characters, by the way. We talked about this a little bit already, right? Like every character in that movie has a purpose and kind of a point. Like there's some that are throwaways or little cameos, but they're funny. Like they're all very great, personalized, realized characters. Like I said, the jokes are great, and right down to the music. Like the writing and the music was also very good, and I'll talk about the music in my next point. Just a really, really well done job. I mean, it ain't Shawshank Redemption, right? Like, but for what it is, honestly, I think it's one of the best. Like,
I wasn't laughing all the way
the
through
style.
Shawshank Redemption.
No, but I mean, like, if you were talking about quality of writing, like, we just talked about a higher cinematic, like, level, right? But for what this movie is, it was perfect. Like, it's exactly what it needed it to be. And it was just, it's one of the best, for sure, of its genre.
No, I agree. Sure. It's honestly, I can't think of a moment where I wasn't laughing during this movie. Like, there's like, some of the more, there even in the serious moments, there's still a joke being played. Like, it's...
Yeah. In the limo, man. Hilarious.
This is what my life is about now. This is what...
Exactly. It's just... Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Great, man. It's so good. And
not recommended for younger children, but
definitely
still funny.
Yeah. Definitely. And, the jokes, they're not only written well, but they're executed almost perfectly. And that's, again, part of it, right? Like, you can write a good joke, but you then have to go and execute it and have the right timing, the right inflections, the right, like, physical, communication. So, again, they were well-written jokes, but they were executed almost perfectly. And the cast, again, very talented. So every time this movie had jokes, they pretty much landed for me. Like, anytime they had a joke, they pretty much landed. I'd say like a 98% hit rate. I'm trying to, like, I haven't watched it for a while, but I'm pretty sure most of the jokes, like, there might have been some where I was kind of like, meh, okay. But, like, 98% of the movie hit for me, for sure.
Because for me, I'd say I laughed throughout pretty much the whole thing, but also I realized, and this will maybe tie into, like, some of my honorable mentions, but I've realized I'm not the best judge of I'm not the best judge of comedy necessarily in recommending it to other people, because I laugh at pretty well everything, like almost everything. Will Ferrell's like the one person I don't laugh at a lot.
You don't really get a kick out of that, yeah.
I laugh at him in his side characters, but when it comes to his main characters and it breaks down to like almost every scene is him just like, what's going on? And now this is happening, and I'm uncomfortable about things. Oh, why is it not stopping? That gets old after a while. Like, and it's funny the first few times, and then when I see it in every one of his movies, I'm like, okay. Like, I like Anchorman. Anchorman was good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, I like that one.
But I can't think of any other ones that I've really gone out of my way to watch because I know that type of comedy. But overall, with most types of comedy, I usually I laugh, and there are things that aren't funny that I'm laughing at. There are things that are funny that I'm laughing at. Like, I can get more into that in a while and explain kind of where that realization came from. But regardless, this movie is one I can't actually think of a time that I wasn't laughing at. Like, it just, as I said, even the sentimental moments, like him feeding the pancakes with crap in them to his lackeys.
Oh yeah,
that proves that you're a real friend. You fed us pancakes with poop. Yeah, but you passed the test, right? Like, come on, it makes sense, right?
The logic is there. Like, the logic is there.
And it's just, once again, it's the sincerity of those performances. Like, at that moment, Connor believes that he's actually, like, proving a point, and he believes that, no, like you see it in his face as soon as like, I want to say it's Jorah as the actor who plays it.
Yeah, Jorma.
Jorma, yeah.
Yeah.
But you see it when, like, as soon as he tells him the truth, you can see Connor's face of just like, oh man, I know you're my real friend, and he doesn't put together sincerely doesn't put together the fact of what he did was wrong, or messed up, and it's just like the sincerity there, and then also the response back of like, no man, like you crossed the line now, and I'm just absolutely done. There's such a sincere moment there, but it's still hilarious. Like it's just, I don't know, man. Like it's as you said, it's a good movie.
It's a great blend of like the seriousness too of those situations and the comedy. Like they find the comedy in everything, and I thought that was a great part. The cast was wonderful too, right? Like they had a strong cast. Like you can't have great jokes and great execution without a strong cast. Like they have the 3 Lonely Island boys: Tim Meadows, Maya Rudolph, Sarah Silverman, Justin Timberlake, Michael Bolton. Will Arnett was in there too, right? He was like the TMZ guy. Bill Hader, Chris Redd. I think the list goes on and on.
I forgot about Justin Timberlake in that movie.
Yeah.
I was in The Fish.
Right? So, like, and they all play different various roles, from talking heads, key characters, musical cameos, but everyone does a great job, and you can tell they were having fun. You can tell they were just having a great time and just doing it.
I appreciated that they didn't rely on the music for being the only source of comedy. Yeah. I appreciate that it went outside of that, because like, and they made a lot of songs for that movie that weren't in there as well, like, or they played snippets of, but like that's kind of, I'm glad that it wasn't just one long music video, and like the promotion beside it where they would release the songs that weren't in the movie just as like they released that as an album. Like you can buy the Pop Star album.
Yeah, with all the songs, yeah.
And that's brilliant. That's good. That's good viral marketing there. That's a good way to expand your audience, because even if, say, you don't want to watch the movie, but you like Lonely Island's music, well, there you go. You got a whole new CD of Lonely Island music.
Well, that's exactly my third point, like the music. And they do it in classic Lonely Island style, right? Making actual legit music, but it's funny. Like, you can listen to it, and it would be otherwise, like, normally legit music, but it's funny. Like, the lyrics are hilarious.
The thing that's always worked about Lonely Island for me with their music, and it definitely translates into this movie, is, like, they're making funny joke songs, but their funny joke songs, again, it's that sincerity. I keep going back to that. It's such a sincere performance where it's, like, even when they're, you know, doing their super serious rapping and stuff like that, and they're like so serious about it, but they're rapping about the most ridiculous things. Like it's not in the movie, like this is a Lonely Island song, but it's like the diaper money song is hilarious. It's amazing because it's like they're dads now, so they're singing about dad stuff. And it works. Like, it works so well, and that's kind of where I think their strength as a group shines through, is that they're not singing about things that they're either singing about things that they don't relate to, but they're like, they have that sincerity of like, it becomes the joke, where it's basically, it's similar to like Weird Al's White and Nerdy song, where it's like, it's a gangster rap, but he's not rapping about gangster things, he's rapping about things that he
White and Nerdy,
that only Weird Al would know about. And it's like, and I think that's when it comes to parody and stuff like that. That's a whole side tangent, actually, I was about to hop into, because it's not really, their songs aren't really parody, I guess. When it comes to comedy songs...
No, they're not. They're just comedy songs, yeah.
There's a side tangent I'll get into in a second. So when it comes to comedy songs in general, there needs to be that sincerity, because if you're just laughing at your own songs... Because I've seen that with some comedians, where they'll be singing a comedy song and they'll be laughing with it. And it's like, that's okay, that's kind of cute, haha, your song's funny, but like, you got to believe in your music, too. You got to believe in what you're singing. Like, even, like, Captain Jack Sparrow, having Michael Bolton sing his heart out about that, like, there's a sincerity with their guest vocalists too, because like Michael Bolton, like, you believe Michael Bolton's a fan of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean. He's a huge, and that's funny in the song too. They're like, wow, Michael Bolton's a huge cinephile. Like, and I'm like, oh, that fits perfectly into our show. It's a great song, because they're going all about the rap and like, yeah, we're coming up in the club And Michael Bolton's like, this
Now
is
back to the
tale
good part.
of Captain Jack Sparrow. And they're like, what? Like, it's such a good song. And they got a ton of them, right? Dick in a box. I just had sex. Mother lover, turtleneck and chain. I'm on a boat. We like sports is good. Jizz in my pants. Three-way. There's actually a lot of like really sex songs. Threw it on the ground. Shy Ronnie, and of course, like you said, Jack Sparrow. Like they're all so well written, like songs, and but they're funny. They're funny. Just charming.
I'll find myself on YouTube going back and watching all their music videos, like because their music videos are funny to boot. Like the song. That's the cool thing about it, is like the songs work by themselves, but they also work watching the music videos. On a side tangent though, maybe you agree or disagree. I genuinely believe that unless somehow the torch is passed, when Weird Al Yankovic passes away or retires from music, that's going to be an entire genre of music that's just going to die.
Well, that's just going to be him,
Because there are other parody artists out there, but you don't know them. No one knows who they are, and they don't do it nearly as well as he did. And unless he somehow passes the torch to like someone to keep performing his songs and write new songs, when he retires, when he passes away, that's a genre it's going to be kind of a landmark in music, because that's just a genre that's going to disappear. Like just that art of parody there is just going to not exist in the way that it did. And I think that's
it won't be so like necessarily mainstream or on the same level as the music that came out, because again, people make parody songs, but they're on YouTube or something, or there's somewhere else where people don't know about them. They're not on that high level echelon.
The reason I bring it up though is it's the way Weird Al did it though, and this ties in with Lonely Island, is there's a sincerity when he was doing it. There was a sincere thing of like, no, I'm parodying this song because I like your music, I like this song, and I thought of a joke to go with it. And like, even the way he handles it, where it's not just some guy on YouTube making a parody, it's him reaching out specifically to the artist, being like, hey, I want to parody your song. And if they said no, he'd be okay with it. And if they agreed, then actually most of them agreed, because that was a badge of honor in the music industry. And I think that's going to be something that also disappears, because suddenly it's like, oh, well, there was this guy who did these parodies that was like a benchmark, and now that's gone. Like I know this doesn't really relate to Lonely Island, but like it's just something that pops in my brain every once in a while, and I just get like happy because it's cool, but sad because it's like, no, it's just gonna disappear. Like So I kind of hope at one point that he passes on the torch. That would be kind of nifty. That's a whole side rant, not about Lonely Island or about Popstar at all, but
not about Popstar.
Did he even make an appearance in Popstar? Because then I can somehow tie
it back. He did. He was in Popstar. He was.
Oh, okay.
He's on the cast list. I can't remember what he did because I haven't watched the movie for a while.
Well, then that's cool.
He was on the cast. He was in the movie.
Then I can confidently say it was related. 100%.
It is related.
Exactly. Yes. It's all about.
And they bring that music to the movie, right? They're just genuine. It has that charm. They're very funny. They're well written. The music doesn't miss a beat. Like, it's really good. It's not half-assed. Like, they didn't just half-ass it for the movie. They put some real love to the music, as it rightfully should get love. And they killed it. They brought it with the music.
What's your favorite song from the movie?
I honestly, I'm in the middle between the beginning song and the last song. I like them a lot. Like, I like that "I'm So Humble" song.
Yeah.
Like, I just love it. It's like, and then like
gets stuck in your head.
And then and then he's like, Adam Levine's hologram. And that was so great. Like, I love that. Like, the opening scene for this movie, it sets the stage. I mean, it's on a stage, but it also sets the stage for the whole movie to come,
up the
right?
entire.
You get the whole feeling. You know what this movie is right off the bat. Like, you get it. And, of course, the inner conflict, too, of what's actually the issue in the movie, right? And then the last one, Incredible Thoughts. They have Michael Bolton in there. JT comes in. Like, it was just, like, the perfect end capper to the movie.
Have you learned how to donkey roll?
I have not.
If anyone could, Matt, you could do it.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'll leave that to Andy Samberg.
Dude, hey, once again, you learn the Thriller dance. You learn bye
Well,
bye
if you can learn the Thriller dance, you can do anything, right?
Exactly. Like, if you have the moves of Michael Jackson, why can't you donkey roll? Just saying. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, that was a long time ago. But yeah, no, like I
Wasn't
mean,
that
even
long
when you
ago.
look at like even if you look at like the thematic difference between the opening song and the song at the end, right? Like you can see even in the music, the story arc unfolds, and like how they create the story is even in the music. So it's so integral to the story itself and to the film. And that's why I think it's so well done. But yet it's still so funny.
Here's the thing I kind of love about the beginning song and the end song, though, is because they say the same thing, though, in a different way. Because the first one is, they say the same thing, but in, like, a reverse way, because it's, like, the first song is him singing about being so humble when he isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is them singing about, the last song is them singing about how incredible their thoughts are, which is really a humble brag when you think about it. So they're basically still they're singing about being really, really smart, so they're still not humble. And like there's a weird parallel in that where they're still like,
but he's been humbled through like the experiences that he goes through in
he
the movie,
learned a lesson, but the lesson was friendship and not necessarily about being humble as much.
My brain is a genius.
Exactly, because he's that exactly. So it's like he's humbled by his friends, but his friends are just as humble as he is, which isn't very humble. And it's a weird parallel, but I love it. I think that's such a good note to end on for the comedy, because it's essentially your character learned a lesson but didn't really learn a lesson.
Exactly. And like you said, like it is a story about friendship. Like it's a story about brotherhood, about music, and ultimately the dangers of losing sight of yourself. If you need a deeper meaning, like it's just super funny and you can just take it at that level. But like it has a lot of great themes in this film.
For me, on top of it, too,
what's that?
Go ahead. Say your thought.
No, you go ahead. Okay. Are we getting Canadian off here? Canadian off.
Oh, you go ahead, you hoser there, eh?
Oh, you go ahead. No, after you, man.
But for me, what it resonated with me 100% was like even looking at some of the relationships that I had lost since high school, like moving away and all that kind of stuff. And it's like kind of started planting the seeds in my brain about like, oh, well, maybe I've kind of been a jerk and just disappeared from people's lives because I, thought I didn't need them anymore and stuff like that. And it kind of helped reflect that a bit. And like, there's so much that built up to me coming back for the reunion. And like, again, even this, like, and Popstar, I could say, is a tiny bit of that, just because it's like, oh, maybe my friendships weren't like, maybe there are things that I did that maybe made people not want to hang out with me or talk to me, or maybe there's this thing that happened, or like it definitely, as much as the comedy, there's definitely an introspection there. There's a way to actually reflect in your own life and take a look. Well,
even how we perceive things too, right? Like sometimes we perceive, oh, people don't like me or people didn't care. And it's like, but it's really our own perception and not necessarily the reality that's always around us.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, and I think, it does have deeper themes to it. Like if you want to find them, they're easy to find. Like it's like I said, a well put together film. If you don't want to find them, you just want to laugh, then by all means, just have a great time. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what does it for me in this movie and why it's my number one of 2016 is ultimately it's damn funny. The documentary style really works. The writing and performances are strong. And the music is classic Lonely Island. And it's just brilliant.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's brilliant. So yeah, that's my 2016 best movie of the year. Popstar, Never Stop Stopping. And it's not on Netflix. It was on Netflix for a while. It's not anymore. So, but if you do get the chance to watch it, like, watch it. I highly recommend this movie. It is incredibly entertaining. Honorable mentions, of course, Captain America Civil War. That was a great movie. I mean, Batman v Superman also came out in 2016. And, like, when you compare the two, there's no comparison, man. Like, one movie worked, one didn't. And Civil War is definitely one of my favorite, especially once you get into, like, the whole character relationships in there. It was just a really strong movie. Don't Breathe was a great one.
That's one I still need to watch, actually.
What's that? Stephen Lang
Yep.
in there is like the blind dude taking out some kids. Came into his house. Like, get the hell out of my house.
My
man."
roommate saw it and he
It was
loved
a
it.
really, yeah, it was a really charming little horror movie. It's quite good. Moana came out that year. It's a great little Disney movie. I love Moana.
Honestly, one of the strongest ones to come out in a while. Like,
In a while, right? Like the music was top, the acting, the story, it had that heart. It was really good. It was a really good film. Rogue One. I liked Rogue One. I enjoyed Rogue One for what it was,
I have thoughts and opinions,
which
but
was kind of like a military. It was almost, honestly, I felt Rogue One was as close as you could get to an RPG in a movie. Like they literally had an opening planet. They gathered their allies and characters from the different locations they visited, and then it all came down to like one kind of battle. It was a very short RPG, but I mean, it was kind of like RPG style as much as you could get.
well, Matt, I guess we're gonna have to end the call here, and we're just gonna have to hang up, and I'm just gonna.
He's like, I'll see you later. But no, Rogue One was really good. I actually enjoyed that movie. Star Trek Beyond, I found was quite a bit better than I thought it would be, and of course, that year, it was, it was. It was quite a good movie as well. Especially that was it part 1.
No, that came out in 2017.
No, that came out in 2016.
No, 2017, because that was an honorable mention
you
last.
sure?
That was my second pick for last year.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Maybe I had it in the. Was that leftover?
Because it was 2017 and 2019. Yep, 2017. Matt,
Okay,
you
well,
failed
then
at
not it.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm pretty sure there's a movie I mentioned in the wrong year that I don't remember which one it is, but I'm pretty sure I mentioned one at the wrong year, and because my roommate called me out on it, and I'm like, no, and I don't remember what it is now, so it doesn't matter.
Oh. Anyway, I'll end my honorable mentions at Star Trek Beyond. I thought that, like, it wasn't like the best Star Trek movie at all time kind of thing, but I thought it was pretty good. It was entertaining enough as it was.
That's a interesting segue because that's my top pick of the year.
Oh, for your word? Oh,
yeah.
Your top pick for the year, Star Trek Beyond.
Star Trek Beyond, yeah.
Okay, Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah.
Let's get into it then, man. Perfect segue.
Nice are you? I mean, unless you want to keep talking about your.
No, that's it, man. That's it. Let's rock and roll.
All right. So Star Trek Beyond for me, and actually I took a note from you, and I rewatched all my top movies.
Right.
And so I actually ended up marathoning 4 different movies just to make sure that I was kind of right in my ranking, and pretty well I was. Yeah. So Star Trek Beyond came out as my favorite film that year, which surprised me. But honestly, I just love the Star Trek movies. Like I grew up watching Star Trek. I grew up watching all the old movies, the TV shows, that kind of stuff. And I've been progressively getting more and more into it as the years went on. And actually, Star Trek Beyond is probably my favorite Star Trek movie of the new reboots.
The new group, right?
Because it feels the most like a Star Trek movie. Because, like, the first Star Trek was really good in setting up the world and setting up kind of the fact that it's a different universe than the main timeline. So I can still,
right? Yeah.
I can enjoy the old movies, I can enjoy the old shows, and not worry about, oh, but this totally disregards that continuity. Well, it can because it's in its own thing. So I can separate those two, which I appreciate. Into Darkness kind of fell flat for me because it wasn't great. It tried to be Wrath of Khan and do something that really it didn't need to do. Whereas Beyond was its own story, and it felt like a Star Trek one. It felt like a Star Trek movie, and honestly, yeah, it's probably the last good interpretation of Star Trek. I almost said Star Wars. Wow, it's a problem with having 2 favorite franchises that start with Star. But it honestly, not counting the Orville because it's not actually a Star Trek series.
Right.
But honestly, Star Trek Beyond is probably the last really good Star Trek thing to come out in the last few years here. Because, like, I haven't been a huge fan of Discovery or Picard. Like, I like them well enough, but they're not as good as some of the older stuff. And, like, the Star Trek Beyond just hit all the notes that I love about Star Trek. So I kind of go through the notes that I made because, again, I learned from you. You taught me about taking notes and the importance of that.
Some people call me a teacher. Oh, wait, no. Some people call me a terrorist. I consider myself a teacher.
I don't know what you're quoting.
Okay. It was okay, so that I don't even know if it was in the movie. It's Iron Man 3, but it was like the trailer for Iron Man 3, and
Oh,
I can't
okay.
remember if it was necessarily in the movie itself,
I
but
was
it
gonna
made the Mandarin seem really cool, and then they're like, but he's not, so don't worry about it. And I was like, God damn this movie.
I was gonna ask if that was a Winston Churchill quote.
Some people call me a terrorist. Oh yeah, Winston Churchill.
I'm like, did he
Some
call
people
himself
call me a terrorist. I consider myself a teacher. I was no, what I was originally just gonna like say and touch upon there. I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek, like overall. Like it never really interested me. Like Star Wars was my jam. Star Trek was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is okay, whatever. I don't care. But when the new movies came out, I found myself considerably more interested. Not necessarily still interested enough to go to the old stuff a bunch, but like I like the new movies that came out. I thought they were pretty good for what they were. And again, not being a fan coming into it before or knowing like the past storylines, like they worked for me. But I agree with you. I think Beyond was the best one. Especially it had like a great villain and like okay, I don't want to touch all your points there, or if that's any of your points, I don't know. But yeah, I thought they were really good. They at least brought me into the world to a certain degree.
The cool thing with the way the new ones were handled is J.J. Abrams specifically is quoted as saying he shot Star Trek like a Star Wars movie. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure that's a quote.
Well, that's probably why that's probably why it resonated with a lot more people than normal.
It works, and it works for the type of movie that it is. But like that's the thing is like they were modernized a bit. And to me, Star Trek and Star Wars are so different of series anyway. Like it's
Incredibly
like the way that
different.
that I break it down is Star Wars is a space fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek is a science fiction.
Yeah.
They're two different properties, so like the competition that people put between them, I never understood. I've always grown up being a fan of both because I get different things from both.
Well, they're both so different. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They're 100% both different. Like one is literally about knights and wizards, but it's in space, right? The other one's more or less like Battleship in space.
Well, and it's
like exploring stuff, right?
The cool thing about it. So, fun fact: Starfleet is not a military organization. They're not actually a military thing. They're about exploration, which some points like that get missed a bit just because of their structure and also like the fact they all have weapons and stuff. But they got to protect themselves.
Yeah, that's fair. That seems legit.
The cool thing about both of them, though, especially in the original conception, and this is where I do have problems with some interpretations of both Star Wars and Star Trek, is the creators both set out to make series that were hopeful. Mm-hmm. They had to end in a positive way. They have to end in with some kind of hope to them. Because even like sorry to go back to Star Wars, but looking back at Episode 3, which is arguably the darkest of the Star Wars movies, it still ends on a note of hope. Yeah. Like, because you have things set up and like, oh, well, there's Luke and Leia, and you know what? They're going to save the day. So there's still some hope there.
It's
and
not
then even
over,
with Star Trek and all the things they have to end with a bit of a hope and a sense of adventure. And it just like, it's something that I think is really important, especially with those stories, but in stories in general, like you should have some hope. There are room for stories that are a lot bleaker, but I think you should still reserve some room for hope. So, but getting into my points, because, you know, aside from just rambling about how great things are and smiling.
Yeah.
So the music is awesome. The new theme for it is fantastic and so good that actually we put on the menu just to watch the movie, and I heard that the new theme, like the bum 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 bum, and even humming that, I'm getting goosebumps. My heart starts pumping.
just loving it, hey?
It's such a good theme. It's so good, and it just makes me feel like it's such an adventure theme, and it's like, hey, yeah, let's go out and do things, yeah. Like, and it's so good, and the music throughout just fits. The music is tight, and I love the soundtracks, and I'll actually listen to those just in my free time. The comedy that happens doesn't ever stop the story, because there's a lot of jokes in these movies as well.
Yeah.
But whereas a lot of modern movies, when they tell jokes in movies that aren't necessarily comedies, they'll stop the story to like address the joke, or they'll just like stop it and be like, hey, here's a joke moment. Whereas a lot of the comedy that's in these movies actually, and specifically in Beyond, it just flows with the story. Mm-hmm. Like the situations themselves are funny. What they're saying is funny, but it fits naturally, and it doesn't feel like they're forcing in, well, we need to have a comedy beat here. It just feels natural to the characters.
Yeah,
which
like
also
it doesn't feel out of place or like forced in a spot where it wouldn't feel natural. Like it's part of. It's very much like again going back to Star Wars, like the Han Solo stuff too, where he's like, "I'm fine here. How are you?" Like that's part of his character, right? Whereas
Yep.
some things in the new movies, it feels like so forced, especially at the beginning of the Last Jedi. That's one of the things I don't like about Last Jedi, was like when Poe Dameron's like, "Is Hux there?" and he's like, like, and Hux is like, "Is he talking to me? Can he hear me?" It's like, are you
like
that
that
actually stupid?
that
Like, it
felt
feels
like it
forced
belonged
in.
that felt like it
not
belonged in like a
in
Guardians of the
Marvel.
Galaxy movie, right?
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel like it
Yeah.
belonged in Star Wars.
They brought Marvel comedy into Star Wars, and it doesn't exactly land very well.
And
But
like
anyway, back to your point. Yeah, it works in Star Trek, though. Like, the comedy and the jokes they use are designed around the characters, and they are natural to who they are.
well, and that even brings me into my next point, where the characters themselves, with their interactions with each other, how they talk to each other, all felt supernatural. And I can't really like the chemistry is amazing, but I honestly would expect them to have that chemistry since they're 3 movies in.
Yeah.
They should have that chemistry, and I'd be disappointed if they didn't. But it just makes that movie so much more perfect because you're not sitting here going like, "Oh, well, do they actually have those kind of relationships? Do they have this? Like, how do these characters connect?" No, they've been serving on a ship for, I think this is halfway through a 5-year mission, and you can feel that. You can feel that bond that they have as a crew, not just even as like a, not just as a fictional crew, but
cast.
as a cast. There's actually,
Yeah.
I think there's a bunch of like, I want to say there's a bunch of like lip sync videos that the cast did like on YouTube that you can find of them just like goofing around and doing like a bunch of lip syncs to different songs.
Oh, really?
And it's hilarious.
Nice.
And it's like, again, that energy carries over.
Well, you can tell when a cast is having fun, right? Like, you can tell when the actors are having a great time doing what they're doing.
And they love what they're doing. And like,
Yeah. And it shows. It really does.
I also find with this movie too is it had a really, really, really strong balance of cheesy sci-fi moments, like cheesy old school sci-fi, and that new, how new sci-fis have that like gravitas feel of like, oh, this is epic and scary, and it had such a good balance of those moments where it just fit really well together, and it just felt like just peak sci-fi for me. It just felt like, hey, I get a little bit of everything that I like with that.
Right.
The makeup effects and the design for all the creatures and the different aliens were amazing, and I'm 100% sure they got nominated for an Oscar, actually. And that'll actually tie into some of my least favorite movies, because they got nominated, and they didn't win. But they got nominated, and
But they got nominated.
the designs are amazing. Like, the transformation of Krall as he's, like, becoming more human.
Human?
And
Yeah.
like I love that, just the little design and details of that transformation. The girl with like the spider thing on the back of her head that was hiding that thing, all of his soldiers, like it was the makeup and the design was on point, and I love good special effects like that. Idris Elba acted the crap out of that role. Like
God, he was
so good.
He does such a good villain. Like, he's
yeah.
a good heroic character, but he excels at being a villain. Like, he acted the crap out of that.
To go back to The Office, him in The Office, he's amazing.
Yep.
Like,
I honestly love Idris Elba and everything he does. I hate him in The Office because he does such a good job. It's not like I hate his character. Let me say, I don't hate him, but his character drives me insane. I'm like, God damn it, he's so
but
cool.
still,
though.
his character is
And
still so
Devoir.
funny because he's not funny. But his character still makes me laugh because it's just like people are, especially Jim, trying to impress him.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And he's just like, no. Why are you wearing the suit? Like, and he's intimidating, right? Like, and he's supposed to be the antagonist of that story arc that's currently going on in that season at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, he plays the crap out of villains. Like, he's so good as an antagonist, and this is probably his best performance. I'd say this one's probably his best.
You believe him as an antagonist, and you believe that he believes in his mission, right? Like, 100%, he's like, no, I'm right in this. My next note just says, wah, because it's, or let me put it more bluntly, it's like, wah! And that's, I love the fact that they used music to fight the villains. I love that. like we were watching it again. We're like, if we describe this scene to anybody else, if we said, "Oh yeah," and they beat the villains with the Beastie Boys, you'd be like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean?" But it works.
You're like, this is ridiculous.
But in the moment, it works.
It works.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It works. I was laughing through the whole moment. I was tearing up a bit just because I don't know if I was laughing too hard or because it's just like such a powerful, good moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it ties back to the first one because it's the same song that he was listening to when he stole his stepdad's car. Like, overall, that was just such a good moment that I wasn't like, I had no idea that was even going to be when I first watched the movie. And they're talking about the music. They set it up, and I didn't even put two and two together when I was watching it the first time that was going to come back. And then the second, like this most recent watch through, actually, I watched it and was like hearing them talk about it, and like they brought up the music, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's set up for holy crap. And then the moment hit, and it was just like, it just made my heart sing.
Money.
Oh yeah. And then the end credits ramping up to that, like there's that final moment after they've like resolved everything, and you're seeing the Enterprise get rebuilt, and then it ramps up, and then it has all their different voices chime in for their space, the final frontier monologue. And like, right. I just got goosebumps as it built up and built up and built up.
That was a good moment, yeah.
Kicks in with the music, and I was just like, yeah, this is it. This is my favorite movie of 2016. Holy crap, it was really good. And also, I just got to mention Anton Yelchin and Leonard Nimoy. It was their final movies, and we lost both of them for that. Mm-hmm. Anton Yelchin way too soon, because he was such a good actor. He was amazing.
A great talent. And great talent. Like, incredible potential still ahead of him.
Oh, 100%. And that's, like, even watching the credits when it comes up and it says for Anton, like, I teared up. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a bummer is putting it super mildly, because it's just, there was so much more that could have come out, and it just sad. I just ended on such a downer.
It sucks when let's end it on. We don't end it on bummer, but it honestly sucks. Like, we talk about losing actors and actresses and all these different creators of these various content and stories that we love, and a lot of them do die when they're older, and we're like, wow, life well lived. Look at this whole lifetime of amazing creations and entertainment and the stories. And then you have people like Anton, and it's like, it's sad because he left so soon. And what did he leave behind? Like, he left behind some great stuff, and he was a great talent, but what did the world miss out on now that we don't get to have him around for another 50, 60 years, right?
No,
like,
exactly.
What else could he have brought to the table? And it probably would have been something great, or at least we hope it would have been. And it's just unfortunate when someone's life ends right at the beginning, right?
And that's like,
before you ever really get into it.
He was 27, man. Like, we're older than he was, and that's it's not a happy thing, but it's at the same time, it's seeing moments
and I just want to point out, not just actors either, but like even people, right? Like, if you have someone die too young, it's a tragedy. It really is.
But seeing things like that, where, the film is dedicated to him, and it just kind of shows that there is a care from the cast and crew about him. Like, it's it's a very bittersweet. It's like, oh, that's nice, but at the same time, like, it's not nice because of what it actually is. But but overall, like it's the more I think about it, the more, like, that definitely is my favorite movie of 2016. Awesome. And for good reason.
Choice.
Hopefully I lifted it up a bit in your rating by the stuff I was talking about.
Oh yeah, like, it was an honorable mention. Like, it wasn't at the end. Like, it was just at the end of honorable mentions, because it was like what I had seen when I was like, oh yeah, put that in there.
And it's better than Rogue One.
Yes.
Aha! I win.
I never argued that Rogue One was better than Star Trek Beyond in the first place. I just said Rogue One was an honorable mention. But I'm saying
I won the argument before it happened.
Oh, okay. I'll give you that then, sure. If that'll make you happy. Whatever you want, buddy. No, Star Trek Beyond, that's a great choice, man. It was an absolutely fantastic movie. Again, you touched on so many of the great points: the acting, the music, the story. It was just the immersiveness into it, and how again they laid the cookie crumbs for moments that came later in the movie. It was just it was a great way, and I think it was was it a Star Trek? It was a Star Trek anniversary that it came out of.
I'm
I
pretty
can't
sure it
remember
did,
if it
yeah.
was 50 or 60 years, something like that. It was some big milestone, and they worked really hard to get this movie out because I know there was a lot of production issues, or pre-production issues, like coming up with the script and the story. And I know, like, ultimately, I didn't think this
Simon
movie,
Pegg wrote the script.
he did, like,
Simon
he
Pegg
had
wrote
to,
it,
yeah.
and it
Well,
is so
because
good, man.
they lost writers, and there was a lot of things moving around before this movie even came to being. And I
When at
didn't
this
watch
point,
it right away because
JJ had
I
moved on.
thought, yeah, he moved on
JJ
to
had moved on
what
to
was
Star
it,
Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't watch this movie right away because I thought it was going to be like half-assed, because it was ultimately, like, if you look at the timetable, it was put together pretty quick for a movie of this caliber. But goddamn, if it's not the best one of the three, like you said already,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like,
One,
again, a surprise movie. I thought it was great.
I loved it. So my second pick, though, because I have 4 top ones and then a few honorable mentions, and I won't go through
Okay.
everything. The Nice Guys was my second pick.
Oh,
Did you see The Nice Guys?
yeah.
Or?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's
I saw
when
it in theaters. It was a pretty good one.
I wasn't expecting to like it that much. My roommate took me to it because he's a fan of Shane Black, and honestly, no, it was a really solid 70s flick. The score was perfect for a 70s movie with a great funky soundtrack. The aesthetic and design was on point. Definitely, everything felt like it was from the 70s, which it should. If it's a period piece, it should feel like that. Nothing should feel out of place. Voiceovers don't normally work for me, but they worked really well in this one, especially there were 2 different there are 2 different voiceovers that kind of crossed over eventually, which I thought was really good. Ryan Gosling was hilarious in it. He was super funny. The film was super colorful. The banter between Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe was always on point, and the action was always super entertaining and just really fun action fight scenes. Like it was just really solid overall. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
That was a good movie, yeah.
Everybody Wants Some was Richard Linklater, kind of a it's like a spiritual successor to Dazed and Confused.
Okay, I didn't
So-
see that movie.
and-
I can see that movie.
It's really good. It's very much it's about your first 3 days in college before starting classes. So
Okay.
it's just a bunch of parties and stuff like that, and it's really
Nice.
really fun movie. There's not a lot of drama in it. It's just very kind of heartwarming. One of those films about nothing, but still, you know, you relate to it and all that kind of stuff. It was solid and fun to go back to. And then Conjuring 2 was my final top film, which is just a good, solid horror film. I didn't find it as scary as the first one was, but it still has a great story to it, good message in it. I
Those
enjoyed it.
Conjuring
It just-
movies are pretty good. Yeah.
I
Like,
ended up
not
sleeping with my light on
necessarily-
afterwards.
Not necessarily like the spin-offs to them. I haven't found those like as entertaining, but Conjuring 1 and 2
Conjuring
were
1 and
pretty
2?
solid horror movies. Especially at the time,
yeah.
they hadn't really been getting anything good. They were kind of like the renaissance. They were the start of the renaissance of horror movies that we all get to have today.
The problem with that, though, now is every horror movie feels like it's trying to copy the magic that Conjuring had. And that's,
Some
that's
of them,
kind
yeah.
of the shame, I feel. So, otherwise, Conjuring was on there. Popstar was on my list. The Magnificent Seven remake is an honorable mention. And a lot
yeah.
So-
I forgot about that movie.
And the reason I like it a lot, because I love the original Magnificent Seven and even Seven Samurai before that. And the reason I will stand by this one as being, to me, another good interpretation of that story is because they didn't just make a one-to-one remake of Magnificent Seven. They told a new story, similar characters, but also different characters. There's not really much that you can kind of compare the two. Like, you could watch them side by side and you'll get 2 very, very different movies. And yes, it's still, they're both Westerns, but that's what a good remake to me is, where you take the concepts and you reimagine it in a way that's different. And they did that.
Yeah, same base thematics kind of thing, but like ultimately the outside's completely different, right?
100%.
Change it all up, revision it, but you still have, you know, the gunslingers helping out a small town against bandits. Like that's kind of the general outline of that. It's almost even an own genre in itself.
Exactly. If I was to see them remake it again, I wouldn't want them to remake it as a Western. I'd like them to pick it to a different genre.
Well, even
right? Because I think-
Mandalorian episode 4 did something very similar, right? Like, it was
Yep,
very
very,
much
very.
that storyline, yeah.
Surprisingly on my list is a bit of a chick flick, Me Before You. That was one I wasn't expecting to like. I was taken to it, and I
I did not see
honestly,
that.
it surprisingly really, really good. I cried like a baby. I'm proud to admit that, but it was a solid as a film. Yes, there's the traditional like Nicholas Sparks moments and all that kind of stuff, but as a film, I don't even know if it was one of his stories. It just looks like it, like the cover looks like.
Right.
But
A notebook.
at the end of the day, it's just it was a very unique story with that. And then finally, honorable mentions is Trolls, because Trolls,
I saw
I
that
was
too.
I was expecting to hate it, and I laughed the entire movie. The music was catchy and stuff like that, but the movie itself was hilarious. And that's going back to the point earlier about I'm not the best judge of comedy. Halfway through the movie, that's when I realized, halfway through Trolls is when I realized maybe I shouldn't recommend comedies to people because I laugh at anything.
You're like, this is great.
It was though. It was funny. It was like absolutely hilarious.
I thought it was a
And-
charming movie. I clearly
It was.
didn't think it was as funny as you thought it was, but yeah, it was charming. It was
I'm
charming.
not claiming to be a connoisseur of comedy. I like comedy, and I like writing comedy, and I like making comedy. But I think that's one that it's a good family film, and honestly, even if you just like cheesy, fun kids films, it's good. So those are my top picks. So so to segue away from that, Matt, what are your worst movies this year?
What was the segue? To segue, if we just say segue,
Like, if you say
is that a segue?
it counts. Yeah, 100%.
Okay,
So to bring up a completely random topic that has nothing to do
the
with
law of
anything.
segue. Interesting.
Speaking of movies that you liked, what about the movies you disliked?
Oh, perfect. There we go. And
Look.
segue.
It's not about how smooth the segue is, it's how smooth you make the segue.
Ah,
If you say something confident enough, it'll just work.
it just happens, eh?
Oh, Matt, speaking of coffee mugs, what were your least favorite movies this year? Throw me a topic, Matt. I'll make it a segue.
Zombies.
Speaking of zombies, was there any zombie flicks that you didn't like this year, or did none make your least favorite list?
You bet your ass there was.
I
Okay,
don't-
So,
Is it serious, or
no, I'm serious, man. That's
Oh,
why I
wow.
threw zombies at you. Because literally, there's a zombie movie that was honestly the worst. This is the worst movie of 2016. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Oh my god.
I never saw it.
This movie is so bad. Okay, let me sum it up for you. If Transformers was the most confusing, dumb movie ever, this has got to be the most boring and also dumb movie ever. Like, it was so boring. My
So
God,
I should
honestly,
watch it?
honestly, no, don't watch it, man. I forgot it existed. Like,
Until you saw the
completely
list?
forgot it existed till I see the list. That's the worst part about doing these. You like go through the list and then you get reminded of a movie that was so bad that your mind literally, to protect itself, blocked those memories and locked them away in a box. And as you go through the list, it opens up those boxes and your mind's like, God, no. Okay.
Why?
Why would you do this to me? This movie was terrible.
This is your idea. This is your
And
idea.
that's true. It's my own damn fault. I got invited by some family friends to go see this movie in the theater when it came out, and one of them fell asleep in the theater. Like, one of them literally fell asleep in the theater when this movie was on. That's how boring
amazing.
it was. And honestly, I wish I could have. I was so jealous of him. I was like, why does this motherfucker get to sleep? And I'm sitting here watching this crap. And I paid for it. It was terrible. I'm sure the normal Pride and Prejudice is far more interesting. And honestly, I'm not a fan of those movies or that book either. Like, I don't know the characters. I could never really pay attention to it. Like, I get it. Maybe it's a higher art form or something like that. I don't know. I do not like Pride and Prejudice as it is.
Because the movie's also based on the book Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
Well, it's Pride. Well, no, it's Pride and Prejudice.
No,
right?
there's a book that came out that the movie's based on called Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
there's Pride and
so
Prejudice.
there's Pride and Prejudice, and then
and then
there's
there's Pride and Prejudice and
Pride and
Zombies.
Prejudice and
Okay, well,
Zombies,
see,
and they
I
actually-
didn't even know there was a book with the zombies in it.
Well, there goes my I was gonna ask if you had read the book at all, and I haven't either.
I did not. I don't know. I just thought they were just ripping on Pride and Prejudice, and I thought it was gonna be more of like a spoof movie. And I was like, hell yeah, I hate Pride and Prejudice. Let's go rip on this shit. And then it was just Pride and Prejudice with zombies.
With zombies.
It's like, it's fucking terrible. Like so.
That's amazing.
Like, and they do nothing interesting with the zombies at all. I think if I remember correctly. Yeah, they just live in a world where there's zombies, but the same things happen. There was one time zombies got into a kitchen or something, and I was like, oh, shit's about to go down, and then like nothing happened, and I was like, God damn it. Like, why are we here? So it's not a good movie. Some weird old-timey, whatever, love triangle plus zombies that should be more interesting than it was, and it wasn't. And I was so glad when it was over. I actually think, there's something...
any positive?
No. I actually think there's something interesting at the end, too. Like, I'm trying to remember this movie, but I think they're in, like, some palace, and, like, all these zombies were coming up the lawn. Like, it was one of those, like, kind of, like, French or English, like, you know, big palaces, and they had, like, the huge gardens going back with, like, the trees and the bushes and such like that.
Yeah.
And I think there was like one where it was like this horde of zombies was coming through, and I was like, oh, finally, something interesting. And this is at the very end of the movie. So close to the end of the movie, I think the credits started to roll before anything happened. And I was like, God damn it! So
why?
like but at that point, honestly, I didn't even care. I was like, I'm just glad it's over.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care that we missed anything there. I'm just glad it's over. It was just a bad movie. And I honestly don't remember a ton of it. I remember being incredibly boring. I remember not giving any care. And I remember like nothing of interest happening with the zombies. I was like, why did you guys bring me to this movie? And why did I say I would go? I just thought it was going to be funnier. Like I thought it was a spoof movie on Pride and Prejudice. And that they were going to like have zombies eat people. And I was like, this is going to be great. But it was literally Ethan. It was literally Pride and Prejudice with zombies. And I was like, it was bad. So that was my worst movie of 2016. Incredibly disappointing. Dishonorable mentions. Independence Day Resurgence. Not good. Sausage Party. That was not good. Sorry, go ahead.
When I saw Independence Day, I thought it was really good. Because I love the first Independence Day.
Oh, and yeah, me too. It's a classic.
And, like, I kept going back to it, and I'm just like, no, it's not bad. No, guys, it's not that bad. No, it's not that bad. There's so much they could have done with it that they didn't, and it was just like, it's a decent turn your brain off and just watch things happen, but they missed a lot of marks, and they set up things that they shouldn't have set up without guaranteeing they were going to get a sequel, and... It wasn't even on the same level of quality as the first one. You know what I mean? And like, I don't expect sequels or remakes to be like as good as the original, but like when you're not even on the same level, man, when it's such a dramatic drop off, it was not good. Independence Day Resurgence, there was a lot, not a fan. There was so much potential that just wasn't realized, and that kind of bugged me with it, especially on repeat viewings. Sausage Party I haven't seen, and I don't plan on seeing it because... Yeah, no, it was one of those movies, Sausage Party, it was like, the trailers looked hilarious, but the movie took things way too far. Every time you had a funny joke in the trailer, you're like, oh, here it comes. Everything took it too far, you know? And it just wasn't funny. It was a very crude humor. And if you're a fan of a very crude, like, this is a very crude humor. And honestly, I do like Seth Rogen's humor for the most part, but like this one was like a bit too far for me. And I was like, I just don't find it funny anymore. It was a bit too much. Maybe that's why parents got upset when they accidentally took their kids to it, but like at the same time, that's why you check the ratings, you idiots.
That's why you check the ratings. Assassin's Creed was not good.
Still haven't watched that
bad.
One.
And I'm a fan of Assassin's Creed. It's honestly one of my favorite game series. I love it.
Yeah.
But the movie, terrible. It was not a good movie. And it's a shame because Assassin's Creed has so much like narrative to draw from. And yes, the potential in the science fiction and the history and like that combination and these different characters coming together, they have the potential to create a great narrative movie.
And they just kind of dropped the
But
ball.
they just didn't. The potential was lost. Like there's a couple cool scenes, but ultimately it came down to the problem again was when these people are making video game movies, they're very much making them like, oh, the video game will sell tickets, the name will sell tickets, but they don't start at like the core of making a good movie, a good narrative. You know what I mean? It's like old comic book movies, like before they started like getting good again, right? Like people were like, oh, this is junk. Like people hate comic book movies, and the problem was they didn't build it around a solid, good narrative. Then you had X-Men come out in the early 2000s, and people were like, God damn, we can make comic book movies like that. And that was honestly the Renaissance. Like without X-Men, we wouldn't have had the MCU and everything else we've gone right now.
Eventually they reached a peak though, and then suddenly it just kind of like reached that
Yeah,
level of...
but it still carried on, right? Like they
yeah.
continued to evolve, and it continued to open eyes of producers and creators and directors and writers to what these movies had the potential to be. And now we have the MCU and the Infinity Saga, and like, goddamn, that is the peak of what these movies could be. Like, I don't know how they get further because they're well made, and they were made around characters and narrative, and that's where they started, right? Video games, they're still getting the same treatment as old school comic book movies, where it was like the name will just sell it, and we can just have spectacle, and that will be good enough.
They have
we
been
need
getting
to build
better,
it
though.
around characters and stories. Now there's some coming out. I think God of War is going to be coming out. There's an Uncharted. I don't know if it's a movie or a series, but there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple PlayStation titles. The Last of Us, that they're working on right now, and again, very good narrative games. So just create a good narrative around it and show the world what these possibly could be. But unfortunately, Assassin's Creed was not one of them.
Yeah.
And then my final dishonorable mention that I said to throw in here was Suicide Squad. I actually didn't mind it the first time I watched it in theaters. I was like, okay, sure, but it doesn't hold up on rewatching. Second viewing, incredibly boring. I was like, okay, this is just a bad movie. Like, it was just not well made, and unfortunate because it had a great cast, and the actors actually did a fairly good job. But the story, there's just nothing there. The movie did nothing. It was just, yeah, not a fan.
So that conveniently leads me into so I had 3 top picks for the worst movie, and Suicide Squad is one of them. It's the one I can talk to the most about.
Maybe I should be the master of segues.
It was, man, maybe we're just getting on the same wavelength here or something like that. But like, Suicide Squad was just bad. But I'll talk about the first 2 I'm going to list off are Gods of Egypt and London Has Fallen. And the reason why I say they're the worst movies of 2016 is, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Thank you. That's the answer. That's 100% it. Because chicken butt.
Nice. I knew it.
Both of those movies I didn't finish. I turned them off, I walked away, and like I just couldn't. Gods of Egypt was just not good. There was potential there, but like it just wasn't executed well. It was just trying to be, look at how big spectacle CG stuff that we have, and I can't even tell you what the story is. I don't remember the story. I remember there was something to do with they had to get a thing to help stop the bad guy. And like and it just was not well made, it was not well handled, and we turned it off I think about 3/4 of the way through and just never revisited it. And it wasn't even we turned it off because we didn't turn it off because we're like, we hate this movie. It was just like, oh, we have to go do a thing, we'll come back to this, and we never did.
Yeah.
Then London Has Fallen. We turned off. I think a similar thing happened, but the whole reason we turned it off too was also the scene. It's very close to the beginning. Every single world leader dies except for the American one. And we're
Classic.
Like, that's far. They went out of the way to kill off the Canadian Prime Minister.
Oh,
they showed
what?
that. The one time they include Canada is when they kill off our Prime Minister. And it's like, it just was so unbelievable that like the US is the only country that would actually be able to protect their world leader so well. And it fell flat. And like Olympus Has Fallen was great. I loved that one because it was basically Die Hard in the White House.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was really good. And then this was just like not that good. It didn't even hold a candle to it. Mm-hmm. So then Suicide Squad. I watched it once. I watched it in theaters and I hated it. I
You hated it on first viewing.
The editing was terrible. The story made no sense. The character setups were sloppy. Introducing a character and then blowing him up right away was dumb.
Instantly. Yeah. Slipknot or whatever his name was.
And then the way they described characters, too, the way they set them up was just bad. The costumes weren't great either. So, on top of it, too, this kind of ties back to Star Trek. I couldn't even make notes about it because I refused to watch this movie again. I refused to watch it to make notes on it. So, Star Trek was nominated for an Oscar in special effects and makeup. And they lost to Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is an Oscar-winning... They're an Oscar-winning movie. And that makes me really angry. Really angry because of Killer Croc. That's the one thing they won for.
Oh, yeah.
And his makeup wasn't even... It wasn't even that amazing or unique. It was just
to what Croc. It could have been from Killer Croc, right?
I've seen better designs. I've seen better executions. And it just... It hurt. It hurt me so much when that happened. I was not okay with that. The script was apparently written in 6 weeks before they shot it.
That makes sense.
And it does. It doesn't make
that makes sense. That tracks.
The story doesn't make sense. What they did with Harley and the Joker was really bad. I dislike that interpretation of the Joker. I'm not saying Jared Leto's performance necessarily, but the style, the costume, what purpose is it for the Joker to look like that and to act like that? Same thing with Harley. What's the purpose of those characters being in that kind of style? It doesn't fit with their style. It doesn't fit with Batman and the aesthetic that Gotham has. Like, modernizing it didn't make any sense. Also, just the plot also made... The plot made no sense. The idea of, like, okay, it's typical Suicide Squad stuff. We're putting together this team to pull off missions that we won't put people in, who we actually value. We'll use criminals for these dangerous missions. And then for some reason, Amanda Waller, who in comic book continuity and in all media, one of the smartest people out there, smartest strategists out there, needs to be rescued by the Suicide Squad because she put herself in a position of danger, made no sense whatsoever. And then they still took her into the heart of that danger anyway after they rescued her. Like, what?
Well, they just let her get what happened. Like, I can't remember exactly. Did they let her just like get on a helicopter and then it got taken down, kind of thing, or?
I don't even remember. No, she was in a base because it was the secret target that you didn't know who they were going to go save, and it turned out to be her.
Right, but I mean, like, after they rescued her, like, they got her out, right? And then I think she got on a helicopter or something, and then that helicopter got taken down by the witch people.
But why? What's the point?
But, like, why put her just on a random helicopter and then fly right towards the middle of shit town? Like,
the amount of time...
I don't get it.
The amount of time they had to remind you that they were the bad guys. So here's the thing. And I have several different side rants on this, but, like, specifically with this, you have a movie called Guardians of the Galaxy that came out 2 years earlier, and it sets up a group of criminals, because all the Guardians are technically criminals, who become heroes and become good guys. And they don't sit there and remind you every 5 seconds that they're the bad guys. You see it through their behavior, how they treat people, what they do for money, all this kind of stuff. But eventually they become likable and become characters that you can actually relate to, and they have a change of heart and they grow. This movie, instead of showing you with their actions, they just told you a bunch of the times, hey guys, remember we're the bad guys. But we also don't kill women and children. We need to specify that. We don't kill women and children. We only kill men. Because that was why was that a scene? Why was that a scene in the movie?
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I'm a really bad person, but I have my limits. No, you're okay, I guess. And then El Dorado, I accidentally killed my family, therefore I am a criminal. No, you accidentally killed your family. That doesn't make you a criminal.
Yeah.
Like, Captain Boomerang was hilarious, but I don't feel he did enough with his character. Like, they had that random unicorn thing.
Oh, then, yeah, where he had his unicorn walk, or he had his little stuffed unicorn or whatever.
So that makes sense. If when he gets, I can't remember if he got a knife thrown at him or something like that, and it's blocked by a wad of money. Why wasn't it the unicorn that you were setting up for like the last, I don't know, half the movie? Why didn't the unicorn stop this thing? Why was it a wad of money? That didn't make sense. Why was it even a part of the character? That's not been a part of the character in the comics or anything like that. This is uniquely to this movie. that he has like a weird fetish for unicorns. It's I don't get why.
Yeah, and then they didn't do anything
now,
with it. Yeah.
So all that aside, I have a pitch that possibly would have made that movie slightly better. What if, instead of rescuing Amanda Waller, they had to rescue Bruce Wayne? So you have, it's Bruce Wayne. We know he's Batman. The audience knows he's Batman. The characters don't, and he can't be Batman in this situation. He has to pretend to be a scared billionaire. And just like imagine an entire movie where it's like could have Harley hitting on him awkwardly, right? You could have like all these people being like, "Well, I wonder how much money we could get for him," and like just they can make comments about him and Batman, and not know that they're the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And like even then for like Deadshot, you have this arc where it's like he's becoming a good guy. So say like at the very end, it once again plays out the exact same. They throw the bomb, and they throw the bomb, and then Deadshot goes to shoot it, but then because of that illusion of his daughter, he misses it. But out of nowhere comes a Batarang, and only he sees it. And he sees the Batarang as the thing that hits it, activates it, and blows it up. And he, because he's Deadshot, follows the trajectory back and figures out, holy crap, Bruce Wayne is Batman. And in that, he has a moment now where he can decide, am I a bad guy? Am I going to basically say, hey, this is the guy who's basically put us all in jail. Let's kill him. Mm-hmm. Or he has a moment of like, okay, this is the guy who's put us all in jail, but I have a chance to turn around my life and say nothing about it. And you could have had a really powerful character moment there where he chooses to say nothing. Bruce knows that he knows because he's gone up against Deadshot before. Deadshot, they have a moment where they look at each other and they know that each other knows what's up, and they have a moment where it's like, can I say something? Will I say something? And then he chooses not to. And I think that would have been a stronger character moment to show some change rather than I saved the world. Now I'm a good guy and I'm going to go back to prison without fighting because, I'm a good guy. Not because the bomb planted in my brain at all. And there's things that could have made it better.
Well, I think ultimately at the end of the day, like, I think you just need different villains too. Like they were not good. Like it was not good.
Well, with good
the
writing,
wasn't good. Like
I
guess with good writing, sure, but like what the whole thing they set up, this like weird Ghibli thing also, dance they were doing, whatever.
The motivation of that team, the motivation of that team makes no sense because that team has never been put together in the comics or in any other interpretation to take on threats that Superman couldn't take on. Mm-hmm. No, they're a covert ops team.
Yeah.
They go in and they get stuff that, if they get caught, then, well, either we can blow them up or they're criminals. So, like, hey, that's fine. They're not meant to take on threats that Superman was. That's kind of where that missed the mark. Where, if you would have had the Justice League dealing with a bigger threat in the background and not have them be main characters, and then in the foreground you have them going to extract Amanda Waller or do some other mission at the same time, that would make sense as a story.
Well, I think you just didn't need the big world-ending threat. I think the scale needed to be brought way down.
Oh, 100%.
Like you said, like the Black Ops kind of thing, and have the targets be, or have like the threat be a very human threat, but an incredibly dangerous or hostile situation, right? But to have them like those stupid monster things and like we're saving the world now, it's like that was just like, no, man. Like you need to understand that not every comic book movie needs to have an end of the world situation, right? Like
it's
bring the scale down.
It's my main problem with the Spider-Man films lately is the scale feels too big, right? Like it doesn't feel like it fits. It doesn't feel like it fits within the narrative of what that character's core is, and it's the same thing with Suicide Squad. It felt too big for what those characters are. And if you want to ramp up to that, that's great. But in their first movie, no, it just felt
didn't
flat.
Need to, yeah.
The soundtrack wasn't good. We got the terrible track of Purple Lamborghini, which is not a good song. Have you listened to that song?
I have not.
Please don't.
I'm probably good.
But like it just overall it was not a well thought out movie, and they changed the tone of that movie so often. Because like when they first marketed it, it was going to be like, this is dark and gritty and rated R, and then they're like, oh, people don't like that dark and gritty. Okay, it's super cartoony and comic booky. Now it's over the top, and it didn't make sense. It just wasn't. It was not good. It made me angry, and I don't go back and rewatch it. And it was a low point for the DC.
For sure.
It honestly ruined so that same year, and this also makes my dishonorable mentions. That and Batman v Superman coming out in the same year really had me guarded for Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Like, it put up a lot of defenses for Wonder Woman, but I ended up enjoying that one. And then Justice League, again, I expected that Justice League was going to be as bad as Batman v Superman and as Suicide Squad, and that's why I didn't hate it as much. Right? That's why I was like,
I thought
oh,
Justice League was just as bad. I was like, this is just as bad. That movie is terrible.
I can't express how much expectations I did not have. Other dishonorable mentions would be X-Men Apocalypse. That movie, my roommate describes it as he's never seen someone have that much of a roller coaster response to a movie before, because there were moments where I was like, oh, that was kind of cool, and then like, what? This is stupid, and like,
yeah, that
like,
it was
up
really
and
up and down
for
that
me.
way, yeah.
Rogue One is on my dishonorable mentions, and we'll get into that a different day. Batman: The Killing Joke is an animated DC movie that was just not. It was executed very badly, and there was the weird romance between Barbara and Bruce that was just really awkward and uncomfortable. Didn't need to be in there. And then
I think I saw a clip of that or something or whatever.
As a Batman fan, I'd say you should check it out, but like, don't expect a lot. Like, between that and then there was that Batman and Harley movie that came out, which was also just not well executed and just awkward. Otherwise, the last dishonorable mention is Sing, and that's because I expected to like it, and I didn't. It was just, it didn't.
I didn't mind Sing. I didn't mind Sing. It's not like my best movie of the year, but I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty.
I expected it and Trolls to have a reverse. Like, I expected to dislike Trolls and like Sing,
right?
And then the reverse happened, so it's like, oh, well, that wasn't as good as I thought it would be. Okay, I guess. But honestly, like, that's like a dishonorable mention just because I was disappointed by it, but overall, like, it's still better than all of the other movies that I've mentioned.
Yeah, it's on the high end. It's on the high end.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
nice.
That's my lesser picks, and it just was not. It was a year for movies, and like, there's just a lot.
Yeah, it was a May year. I was just like, 2016 was no 2019. That's all I gotta say. It did give us a pop star though, which is classic, but I'm just
and
like
Star Trek
and Star Trek and Star Trek Beyond, but yeah, the rest of it was just I was so just meh on 2016, other than just a few standout movies. But
sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you just need some that. And the cool thing about it, once again, with movies is you can go back and revisit the ones you really love, and you can forget about the ones you didn't like until we do conversations like this.
Right.
But overall,
lock them in a box until you have to open them up. Yeah.
Yeah, but overall though, it's still like, to me, it was still a solid year, and there are ones that I liked, but there's just some I have no intention on ever going back to visit. I'm okay with that.
Fair enough.
It's gonna seem like a dumb question, Matt, but did you did your worst movies already, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
All right.
Yeah, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. Remember?
Yep. Oh, no, I already forgot. About it.
That's how bad the movie is. You
yep.
already forgot.
So Matt, then I guess it's time for what's next for you. What are you doing this week?
I'm gonna get on Vikings. I didn't do that last week. Man, honestly, like, you would think, like, being in lockdown, you have so much time, but honestly,
you really don't though.
You like, don't. It's hard. The weeks go by quick, and so like one of my goals is just to honestly make more time for movies and to take in some stuff like that.
You don't want to sit around too much, because then it just becomes, you just get like, that's where
you got to do something. Or you go crazy.
I was sitting around too much during the first month, and it just kind of, I got really down, and then eventually like, I started doing a work week and actually started working on stuff. Then we started this, and it's been good. My brain has been in a much better place because of that. So
you got to stay busy, man. This is my favorite time of the week right here, I tell you.
So Vikings is on your agenda
for
this
Vikings week? And I still want to see Green Book and Ready Player One. I caught up on Modern Family just this last week. It had a solid finale. Made me feel stuff. It was nice. But yeah, so Vikings, Green Book, Ready Player One. we'll see what happens this week.
Yeah, cool. We still have that marathon that we haven't continued with for a while because I decided to hijack it by watching these 4 movies.
Right.
And then we finished Community finally, which such a good show. Season 5 and 6 are amazing. Like they're so good. And we just started watching the Clone Wars series actually. So I've never sat down and watched Clone Wars and figured why the heck not give it a chance and see what's going on.
It's a good series, yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, I don't really know if there's any other ones that are popping out. I guess Darkest Hour because you might be.
Yeah, I'm gonna beat you up if you don't watch that. We should pick a night, and I'll watch Ready Player One. You watch Darkest Hour, and we'll be like done.
Right, we can agree on this finally. And then I actually started the audiobook for Ready Player One as well to kind of see what it compares to.
Nice.
But yeah, no, there's I guess a lot going on. I keep feeling like there's other things that I'm forgetting about that I said I was going to watch or that I need to watch, and I don't know. There's so much to watch and so little time to watch it.
But yet, apparently so much time.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a weird conundrum.
So yeah, I guess that's it. That's the end of this episode of A Feast of Films. If you have anything you want to contribute to the comments, like ideas for next week or ideas for future topics, please feel free to leave them below. I actually wouldn't mind seeing, too, if you have any characters that you related to or relate to. I'd love to see that show up in the comments below if you have anything that you want to share on that level.
Absolutely.
You know where to find us now, I'm assuming. Links are all below for different places to listen to us or also to watch here. Like and subscribe to us, please and thank you. And,
we greatly appreciate it.
And yeah, I think that's another feast. As you always say, I think I'm stuffed. Today was really, really deep and a lot more introspective than I think either of us expected.
Oh, man. Like, I didn't like the whole first half of this episode, I was not expecting that at all.
that's kind of the beauty of these things, is not knowing what we're getting into. And I think it was a nice break from some of our usual topics. So I think that was really good. So that being said, this was A Feast of Films. I'm Ethan R. Hill.
Episode 4.
I guess, yeah, it's episode 4. But I'm Ethan R. Hill, and you are...
Matt Black.
And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one, and enjoy your weeks. Stay safe, everybody.
See. Okay,
do we want to try that again?
I'll edit that, yeah. Oh.
So that was A Feast of Films, episode 4. I'm Ethan R. Hill.
And I'm Matt Black.
And we'll see you guys next week.
All right. See you guys later.
Have a good week.
Toodaloo.
Bye-bye.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo. Now, do we want to try again, or do you think
No, that's good. I'm gonna keep that in there. That's hilarious.